What is up? What is up? What is up? It is your girl Nancy Farmer Nancy, and we are in this thing, y'all. So we up early in the morning. It is 9:22 a.m. I was up doing my little rounds, and I said I'm about to go bring them a content dump. Yes, that's right. It's another content dump with your girl. So wake up, get with it, and get up in here. Come on up off in here. While y'all get in here, I will be playing our morning mood music because on yesterday when I left, I had to find that video because I want to show y'all what it looks like to get it out the mud. We don't want to do no talking about it. If you can't show me, I don't want to talk no more. Point blank, period. So, with that being said, let's get it.
Hours, nigga, 7 days a week. Yeah, I don't get tired, I let you other niggas sleep. Turn up for that chicken, yeah, I get it out the streets. Hustle like I'm starving, going hard, I gotta eat. I get it out the mud. Yeah, yeah. I get it out the mud. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I just break my wrist, make that water whip, stretch it out and flip. I'm all up on my chip. I get it out the mud. Yeah, yeah. I get it out the mud. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I just break my wrist, make that water whip, stretch it out and flip. I'm all up on my chip. I get it out the mud. Turn up in 2 seconds. Get it with music, a cup when I'm stretching. Across the street under a bando and here with your hoe to get her to go fetch. On the scale, but I call it a ruler, and that's what I'm using my method of measure. Got it jumping up out of the pot and my clickety clucking surrounding my property. I meant to say my client diggity. Numbers official and tickety. Out the money, nobody did shit for me. Arrogant, often I'm bigoted. All about money like what they got into me. Breaking out bricks and me blowing good crickety. Say you ain't feeling me, all the track killing me. Neighborhood love me, it's hard to get rid of me. My baby mothers are sick of me. I put that dick on them, now they ridiculous. Saying that when I don't come in, I'm with a freak bitch. I've been chasing my paper religiously. Why really in the street, others pretend to be. Let me get off on my grind and they feeling me. No one repeating me, coming and getting me out of the mud, nigga. I'm the epitome. 24 hours, nigga, 7 days a week. Yeah, I don't get tired, I let you other niggas sleep. Turn up for that chicken, yeah, I get it out the streets. Hustle like I'm starving, going hard, I gotta eat. I get it out the mud. Yeah, yeah. I get it out the mud. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I just break my wrist, make that water whip, stretch it out and flip. I'm all up on my chip. I get it out the mud. Yeah, yeah. I get it out the mud. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I just break my wrist, make that water whip, stretch it out and flip. I'm all up on my chip. I get it out the mud. I ain't waiting on nobody, I'ma go get it. I ain't tripping on a nigga, I'ma go fill up. Somebody take something from me, I'ma go kill it. Trap with my heart and I'm serving out the window. Brother barred up with a curtain on the window. Face car worth a lot of bands in the hood. Had to lead a dice gang, got a bar out foot. Sunday coming up, pull the cars out, look. Nothing through the grams of a girl called no more fail with the hair got all y'all shook. Pool hit the line in the drop. Blood went dry, had to take a little route. I'm pulling up, getting it. I don't was sickening. Drop no grip and a nigga gon' foul. Another phone can't get stopped in the car. Rappers ain't trying to flag. I just got a lot of that. Anybody try me, I'll put him in the money bag. Follow that, copy that. Pounds in the copy bag. Back in the bank, y'all leaving niggas dropping that. Call him back, chill, go fall back. Quicker than I got it in, not a bad out of that. Watch them three people gonna come out of walking shit harder than a bitch. Nigga, what? Hours, nigga, 7 days a week. Yeah, I don't get tired, I let you other niggas sleep.
No.
Turn up for that chicken, yeah, I get it out the streets.
Out the streets.
I feel like I'm starving, going hard, I gotta eat. I get it out the mud.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Out the mud. Good morning, y'all. It is your girl, Nancy Farmer Nancy. And let me reset the room. We are in the building. We are up early. We got to it. We the only thing we making sure survive this summer after we did all our harvesting, our watermelons, our tomatoes, our herbs. Only thing we worry about is them strawberries. And we got to keep them strawberries alive. Do y'all understand me? So that is what we're going to do. But today, I wanted to come back and do some more content dumping for you guys. And I also wanted to talk about the erasure of Black women. Why is this important? Because when Black women's work is erased, where does that leave us? Where does that leave us as a people? And so I want to talk about that with you guys today. Let me get up in here and do a little screen share right quick. I'm gonna share my screen. Yes, this is it. Does anybody know where I am? Does anybody have money to buy this property? Boom. Y'all see this? This right here is out the mud. It was nothing here. When I got here to this farm, it was absolutely nothing here. It was a vacant lot in the community that nobody, literally the owner of the lot, she had just kind of left it, So what we want to do is talk about how I was able to do this work, how I was able to get this done. Anybody know where I am? Does anybody have money to buy this property? Period. Farmer Nancy. Farmer Nancy has the money to buy this property, and that's exactly what it is that our family decided to do. Um, and it was something that moved our journey forward in agriculture, and I was excited. I just jumped headfirst right on into it. So when we talk about the erasure of women, of Black women at that, I want to cite a journal of critical education policy studies from Swarthmore College, right? And this is by Tamara Anderson, and the abstract or the construct of it is: to what do we owe Black women? Everything. To be Black and female in America means that you are ignored, silenced, and sometimes erased. The very fabric of history will be quite different for all of us without the contribution, tears, blood, and love of Black women. As a result of the intersection of patriarchy and white supremacy, Black women are too often left exhausted, overworked, and left out of the historical narrative. This multi-modal creative work is a call to action to end the erasure of Black women with scholarship, visual art, and poetry. I thought that this was a really nice journal entry that I read. Um, you can actually go here and download it. I'm not gonna download it and go through it here today. I might do it again because it's a series. We're doing a content Farmer Nancy, this her work, because I will never let any man get away with saying that I needed them to do my work for me. Nobody can take my work away from me. Nobody can take what I have gone through to get to this point, to be able to call myself a farmer, away from me. So we want to double down. We want to stand tall and double down on the fact that we will be holding people accountable for their words and their actions. And we're going to start here. We're going to start here, y'all. This is where we're going to get started at. Just 1 second, because I definitely want to keep sharing. Let me see. Can y'all see that? Can y'all see this? Talk heavy. Oh, it's about to go down. It's about to go all the way down. Link tree, link me up. Yeah, let's link up. Okay. So, welcome to Farmer Nancy's Link Tree. Dun 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 dun. I put everything in one easy generalized location for you guys to go learn more about me. That way you don't have to nighttime stalk me. That way you don't have to be lurking for me. You don't have to be out here doing your sneaky sneak search. I got you. I put all my links in one location. We got our links to YouTube. We got our links to the Austin Resilience Project. We linked the hell up. We stand on their necks because you cannot erase this woman's work. So let's see where we should start. Hmm. You have, ooh, because I'm going to leave y'all with something. The Society Today, this was a Black podcast that I did on YouTube. Oh, it was a 9-hour conference. I live with an amazing woman who was down the street from my home. Hold on. My mom literally lived. That's a 9-hour. Okay. That's a 9-hour. Okay, we can look at the edible Austin. I want to share this. We sharing today. We sharing today. Oh, she cute. The documentation, put that on paper, on period. Edible Austin, Urban Legend. This is the one that y'all see in the magazine. They also had the hard magazine that I show everybody, but then they also have the digital magazine. And so that entire article that I have is also online on the internet. And this is it. Picture a farmer in your head. Tiffany Washington, owner of Diamond Cobb Garden Farm, may defy that picture. For example, Washington doesn't like bugs. I don't. And is unsettled at the thought of most critters. Yes, Nancy Farm Fancy. Her husband, Rod, gave her squeamish alter ego a name, Nancy Farm Fancy. Yes, that's me, y'all. What is up? We outside. But so this is the Edible Austin article with all the images. Look at me and my honey. Oh, snizzap. Yeah, boy. That's that black love. That's that black love out here in these streets. So we want to maintain at all times that we be outside. So okay, let's check some more links from our LinkedIn. I need to figure out how I can switch from one screen to the next without having to go out of my screen share. I'm gonna figure that out. But in the meantime, let's keep dropping this content. All right. Um um how about we hit up Crafted in Carhartt? Let me drop those receipts. Y'all want receipts? Here goes some receipts. We're not doing no talking. We just doing all the working. But see, now I get to just, enjoy it and be like, ooh, look at this shit. I thought y'all was talking about we was finna do something. I did something, and nobody can ever take that away from me. Do what work? The work been done. Austin Farmer, Tiffany Washington. Out here with my farming alter ego, Nancy Farm Fancy. I operate the only Black-owned farm in Austin city limits. As a food justice warrior protecting my childhood home by planting a nutritional defense around my community. Man, somebody else wrote this. These ain't my words, y'all. I didn't put this out here. Thank you, Gotti. I appreciate it. What up, Bumper? What up, bro? Bumper, barbecue, and baseball. We out here with the energy. So we want to definitely look at this. Ooh, Carhartt. Y'all see that right there? They came through. They gave me some coveralls, some gloves. Man, they gave me a whole little farmer fitted kit. I got a goat skin blazer to wear. All that good stuff. We was outside. We was outside. Look at you, girl. It's them turnips. They got them gloves. I got a shirt. My hair was real red in this picture. We doing a content dump. Look at the project. That's the hood back there in the background. We growing them. These are broccoli flowers we had growing out there. Crafted in Carhartt. Crafted. That's me. Ain't nobody put me there but me. I was crafted. All right, let's see what else we can roam around and find out about. Because we never ever want to let anybody be able to think that you don't exist in real life. Because I come with all the hype and I come with all the resilience. I am the bag. Oh, here we go. Here we go. The Resilience Project in East Austin. I'm gonna play this for y'all. Hold on. Let me see if I can switch over back to another share. We want to share our screen. These are receipts. I'll be telling y'all need to go check my resume. But I feel like some of y'all don't be believing me, so y'all ain't go check the resume. So I'm about to do my content dump series where we dump some of this content that Farmer Nancy got. So I ain't out here. I'm not a part of the YouTube streets. You know what I'm saying? I'm a part of the committee and crew that's just rolling through that thought that thought somebody was really about something. But since we now know there wasn't nobody really about nothing, I just want to share what could have been. Or, shit. I don't even know. But what I'm saying is this. We about to put this content out. Let me see. Here we go. Resilience. Boom. Yet again. I want to run this back. Make this big. Let this play for y'all. Look at my grandma pretty face in that S. Raisin in the sun. There she go. I get to see in the resilience, y'all. What's up with it? Amazing. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Let me see if I can get that resilience. So the resilience project was a project that was done. I think we did it last year, and it was set up to honor advocates in the community who have been doing work, new and old, past and present. And what made this really special to me to be able to be honored at this resilience project was the fact that they also honored my grandmother. So right here in the S right here, that's my grandmother, the late great Miss Dorothy Turner. And then right below her right here in the C, that's me. That's your girl, Nancy Forum Fancy, Forum Her Nancy. And so the Franklin Commons is situated here in East Austin in the JJ Seabrook area. And so these are the honorees. This dude right here, the thumbs down. We put the big X. We ain't gonna trip. They did ask me if I was okay with being on the mural. I was like, man, ain't nobody got time for all that. Because I don't want no problems. Now, the reason we're talking about the erasure of Black women is because of this. Because sometimes in history, they will try to take us out. And so my grandmother is and can be considered an example of that. After she passed, this man right here took Turner took over a program that she started here in the community and has basically taken credit for it. Never really mentions her. Stole her identity using her last name. His name is Charles Bird. You understand? And it's he's been a detriment. I use that word a lot because that's a real thing. Like total destruction, total chaos. These are the type of people that he rock with, and we'll get into that when we get onto how Black Austin fell in the political liberal movement. And so then this is my grandmother, Mrs. Dorothy Turner, pioneer civil rights activist. Dorothy Turner, grandmother of Tiffany Washington, was a pioneer civil rights activist in Austin who dedicated her life to pushing for freedom, equity, and justice for all in the city. She co-founded the Black Citizens Task Force alongside Velma Roberts and created Grassroots Struggle, a newspaper with a mission to boldly tell stories about Black people in East Austin that weren't being reported everywhere. Yeah, he's trash. He don't want no smoke. Check this out. He seen us. We was at when we went to the reveal of the mural, he was there. And he just walked around quiet, looking crazy. That was his best bet. Don't even speak to me. Cause I got all the smoke he could ever want for him and his wife. Yep. Cause I don't want nobody to think I'm bullying men. Fuck that shit. Y'all got problems, we can look at that. And so here I am, Tiffany Washington, Nancy Farm Fancy, urban farmer, granddaughter. I'm the granddaughter of Dorothy Turner. I'm an Austin-based organic farmer who runs Diamond Cobb Garden Farm, a quarter-acre urban farm off the corner of Manor and Rocky in East Austin. That is the name, and I took that name from two of my ancestral families. Tiffany is an heir to the agricultural legacy. Y'all, I didn't write this shit, okay? I want everybody to realize and understand that I didn't write these words. These are other people, okay? But this is some real shit. That just puts into perspective how they recognize my work, how they respect my work here in Austin. And so I shouldn't be devalued, or no one should be able to ever take away my value that I hold for my community because they're a piece of shit. So I just want to put that out there. Um, let's see. Tiffany is an heir to the agricultural legacy of such luminaries as George Washington Carver, who trained thousands of Black farmers in regenerative farming methods, and Booker T. Watley, the founder of community supported agriculture. So I practice both. I practice regenerative agriculture and community supported agriculture um, because it comes natural. You know, you want to revitalize and you want to regenerate our communities. That, I mean, we're doing that point blank period, just based on trying to clean up the hood. You know, we trying to figure out how to support homelessness and substance abuse and just all these different social constructs that we're trying to fix in our communities. That's not, you know, it's not far fetched to see that agriculture is definitely something that needs to be looked at. So let's keep digging through the dump. Let's keep digging through this content machine that I have built, because I can go on and on and on. Do y'all understand? Okay. Hmm. CNN news and politics. Not CNN news and politics. Somebody stop me. Somebody please come and stop me. Somebody stop me. That's my farmer rancher friend Deidre right there. Shout out Deidre. I know I haven't been able to reach out and get to you, but I got that stuff and I got it notarized, sis. I did. And I got you. I got you, because after I do this live today, we want to do some laundry, and then I'm gonna see if I can't get you those papers. But you live in Luling. Oh my God. Many black farmers nationwide are struggling to keep their farms afloat as they face disparities across the board. You cannot stop my woman's work because I'm already facing disparities. Dang, this is what I'm saying though. Texas cattle rancher Deidre Stearns quit her teaching job 3 years ago to help save her family's farming operation. We out here. We out here. Y'all better go click the links. Y'all better go click the links in my link tree. Let me show y'all the link tree. Here's the link tree. Here's the links. Link tree. linktr.ee/Nancy Farm Fancy. That's the link tree. Let me drop the link to the link tree in the chat. Check out my link tree. Mm-mm-mm. Check out my link tree and explore uh the explore our journey in black ag. Period. There we go. Drop that in the chat. All right, y'all. You can check out the link tree because I don't want nobody to think this is just a fake ass portal. You know, what I'm telling y'all is this. I know that I'm a winner. And I know that when I talk my shit, when you go to look it back to back it up, receipts. I bring receipts. Do you understand me? Okay, let's check out this Fox 7 News feature. Black farmer says she's the only one left. And Black farmer Tiffany Watson is making a plea to help restore Black farming heritage in Austin. It's about restoring the Black farm heritage. I could go out here. I can teach and be like, we gotta plant seeds and put them in the soil and teach farming. I want to teach why it is that we must restore Black farming heritage across the board, wherever we are, not just here in Austin. Bumper out there, yes. Hands team in that soil, he's restoring the Black farming heritage in his community. I don't understand what we don't get about this. I don't need nobody to come here and do no work. The work is done. You can support the work that continues being done in any way you see fit. However, your heart opens up to pour into us, I respect that. That's it. But for anybody to ever open their mouths and come at me, listen, put this on the docket for 3 months. I had to wait for the perfect time. And now we're here. Now we're here. And I'm here to say in the early 1900s, 1 in 7 farmers were Black. But now today we toe up. And so we want to fix that situation. If you haven't seen Good Day Together, I'm about to show it to you because we're doing a content dump. Because we're doing a content dump. Let's see.
Your vision looks perfect, Candy. You sit back. Yesterday, my
The
friend
advertisement. We'll let that advertisement run through while it's running through itself. I'll just chat it up with you guys. But I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be able to have the time and get the space to actually start bringing this information. I've been wanting to go through my content for so long, even if for myself, just to sometimes put it all together in one compilation and go back and kind of look at it and be like, dang, I seen you.
In the early 1900s, 1 in 7 farmers were Black. That's according to a report from Data for Progress. And here in Central Texas, Black farmers were a large part of the history, with freedmen colonies and homesteads. In fact, some current area farms still acknowledge slaves tended to their land. But if you look around today, a lot of the Black farmers are gone. We found one, and in this morning's Good Day Together, where we focus on communities of color, we introduce you to Tiffany Washington. She owns the Daubenkamp Farm. She's also the descendant of a Black South Austin farming community and granddaughter of Austin civil rights leader Dorothy Turner.
Boom. I want to stop right there. I just have to stop right there because I just feel like at some point we have to stop trying to pull each other down when we are faced with the mirror. And I feel like my woman's work, let's not forget the title of this video, is The Erasure of Black Women. My women's work was attacked by a former NBA player, millionaire, Black man, in front of 4,000 live subscribers on a platform with over 400,000 people. And none of y'all talking about that. So what does that say to me? What does that say when it comes time for me to talk to my daughter about how hard she got to work? Y'all didn't see that or don't want to talk about that because it ain't drama, it ain't beef. That's a lot of fucking drama. It was a lot of drama when they drug Rosa Parks off the bus. Nobody talks about the work that Rosa Parks did in investigating the rape of Black women. Sorry, R word. I'm new to YouTube. YouTube, chill out. Fair stuff, use all that, whatever the hell those words y'all be trying to. But no, the fact that everybody can close their eyes and ignore it while continuing to double talk around the narcissism and misogyny of an egocentric maniac clown, man, say, all right.
So I've been farming for about 3 years now.
Meet Tiffany Washington.
We're just kind of mulching the outskirts of our beds here at the farm.
What's the date on this?
Over on the east side.
This was 2 years ago.
Hot and dry, so.
But it's passion that drives her.
Heat. We use mulch as an outside protective layer up against our fence line.
Y'all know I like them wood chip piles.
Right now, she does most of the work herself.
I think it's just a passion in me. It's definitely something that I do that helps with my PTSD. So just the outdoor activity and engagement is good for me.
Out of high school, Washington went to the Navy. Now she's back.
Receipts. We want.
In Austin, getting back to her roots.
Dairy cow compost. Farming is my lifestyle, and I don't see like farming is this job. And it's important to me that I see other people in my community be able to find opportunities within our agricultural system, within our food system.
And yes, even in farming, there's racial injustice.
I want to be able to feed my community. I want to be able to make sure my community has access to fresh foods, fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, juices and stuff like that. Not just take my produce and sell it to high-end restaurants.
Pointed words, but she has a pointed message.
It's like this socially unacceptable disadvantage to communities of color here in Austin. Because they don't talk about agriculture.
Don't be talking about what you don't know about. So don't go screaming shit like chicken coops in the hood, feeding the hood, and doing all this shit when you really, really don't know nothing about it. You have to go out and learn how to engage with the people in the communities that you're talking about, you're trying to serve, right? And we saw an example of that, right? Ooh. Ooh, I don't want to say this person's name. We saw an example of that when, oh, Jesus Christ, when that fella was going to go work with Charleston White to learn out his mouth. He was telling y'all he needed to go learn. He needed to go learn how to do what the fuck it is I already do. So for him to have opened his mouth and said, I needed him to come do the work for me, that is so ass backwards. And I promise y'all, as long as I be in this sector, roaming around through y'all's chitty chats, I'ma keep talking about it until somebody besides me start fucking talking about it, till y'all bring it up. Random. Yep, I sure did. Spoke on it. Cause we could have been talked about it. But I see a lot of bullshit out here. A lot of bullshitters. No go getters. No go getters.
There's no agricultural equity that communities of color have in agriculture here in Austin, Texas, and there is none because there are no black farmers here. I'm the only one.
It wasn't always that way, but in Austin, things keep changing.
You will notice that food system does not look like it supports people like me. So with it being a food town, why doesn't the food flow into marginalized communities? And it doesn't because there's just that social injustice, like food apartheid.
Now she's on a mission to re-sow the seeds in the fight against injustice.
I really don't have a choice. I grew up in Austin, like I said, so I come from a family of servicemen and leaders here in the community.
We're a local organization that deals with the issues we feel affect the masses of blacks in this city, especially
Washington's grandmother, Dorothy Turner, was part of the Black Citizens Task Force, starting conversations about racism and black discrimination.
Politics governs our very being.
Oh, it's a double sound. Hold on, let me fix that. I don't really know. It's just I can fix that. I don't really know how. Let me see. Oh,
I think that is a relief.
Let me see how I can fix that double sound because we don't want that to be happening. I think somebody had told me how to fix it before. To finally be able to tell people how important it is. Let me see.
Who wants to have to be that person to bring up the conversation? But if that's what
I gotta close the other windows. Ooh. Let me see. I know there's one of them over here.
And
Damn.
that's what
Tell
I'm
me if it's still
approaching
doing
every
it.
day.
A
A
black
black
farmer
farmer
speaking her
speaking her
truth.
truth. I
I
want to
want
grow
to grow
farmers. I
farmers.
want
I
to
want
see
to see
more
more
farmers of
farmers of
color
color
who
who
are
are
learning
learning
how
how
to
to
be
be
entrepreneurial.
entrepreneurial.
Who
Who
doesn't
doesn't
want
want
fresh
fresh
fruit? Who
fruit? Who
doesn't
doesn't
want
want
fresh
fresh
vegetables? Who
vegetables? Who
doesn't
doesn't
want
want
the
the
opportunity to
opportunity to
see a
see a
beautified
beautified
space
space
revitalized with
revitalized with
flowers
flowers
and
and
just
just
just a
just a
happy
happy
space
space
within their
within their
communities?
communities?
I don't
I
think
don't
that
think
that
that that
should just
should
be
just be
for
for
one
one
area,
area,
you
you
know,
know,
of the
of the
city
city
that
that
Yeah, I'm gonna
is
figure.
known to be
I
like
can't mute that one.
this
this
urban
urban
organic
organic
area.
area.
Just so y'all know, y'all can most definitely go to in order to see it. Y'all can go here. Let me pull it up. Hey, Secretary of Common Sense, thank you for letting me know that. I'm gonna figure that part out. But you can go check it out on my LinkedIn. I have one place where I keep all my links. So you don't gotta you want to do your searches, your all of that researching, because everybody out here, everybody researching. Some reason everybody is looking up everybody. Everybody is looking up everybody. And so if anybody wants to find out more about real work, actionable work, measurable work, then y'all can come right here and check out these links. Let's see, where else do we want to take this? Okay, Austin 360 food and dining. Okay, this is the one. This is the article that you guys see a lot of the times that Toothless Tiger references when she talks about me about the 100 years. It's so weird. I guess not weird, but um I don't take like compliment, like how people like give you compliments and stuff. It's not that it's weird to me. It's I don't know. I get blushed out, I guess. I don't know. I'll be like, oh my God. But I mean, I worked hard, right? I worked hard, and you want people to acknowledge the work and stuff. But when you get those people who are genuinely supporting you and acknowledging it, and they speak about you to other people, and they're speaking from a place of honesty and truthfulness and actually caring about who you are as a person, I don't know, it just make me feel squishy inside. I be feeling squishy. So this is in the Austin American Statesman, digging into history of Austin Black farms with Black farmer, with Dobbin Cobb farmer Tiffany Washington. That's me, farmer Nancy, and this is some basil and eggplants. I was planting eggplants and basil at that time. Um, on a Wednesday morning earlier this month, Tiffany Washington walks around her East Austin farm, shoveling compost into long rows that will soon be filled with fall crops. I like the fall season, it's my favorite. It just gets too hot in the summer. Like I try to get as much out of my spring planting as I can. I try to plant as many tomatoes, peppers, whatever during the spring, so that when that first round of summer heat start coming in, I can be harvesting and I can get one more pull out of everything before it's just too damn hot and I just can't take it no more. We're actually about to start putting in our squashes like butternut beets and late season zucchinis and stuff like that. We're about to do our squashes. It's a oh, I love how people somebody else wrote this about me. I didn't write this. This is in the Austin American Statesman. They just came and hung out with me all day. So let's set the scene. It's a calm, sleepy morning, but Washington, a mom of four and a veteran who served in Iraq and Afghanistan 15 years ago, hasn't slept in more than a day. Insomnia keeps her up, memories of her late stepfather, too. So, if y'all watched my video yesterday, the live that I did when I was doing my content dump and sharing, I can kind of talked about losing my stepfather. right when we got the lease. We signed our land lease in September, but we had gained access to land in like July. So we were working on it and mowing everything down. And then September 1st, we signed the lease, and September 14th, he was murdered. And so that really made it rough on me here at the farm for a little bit. I didn't know if I wanted to continue with the farm because, my stepdad really had put the most, him and my mom, well, him, because, he told my mama, I don't know why y'all mess with that girl. Y'all know whenever she starts something, she going head first and she gonna make it get done. So, so he put the money in and bought the equipment to help me get started. And then on 2 weeks later, I lost him. So things happen, life happens, and we have to find ways to move forward, but it's definitely not easy. So finding farming as a lifestyle. This was actually in the magazine. Just do a little reading. I think it was cool. In the in so in the newspaper, I gotta find that newspaper. I need to find I want my stuff back. So this is another reason that I'm doing this, right, y'all? Because at the end of the day, I feel like in trying to work and build, when you hear people who are talking about doing things and wanting to work, it's just like a pitch contest. I feel like I've entered pitch contests. I entered a Chameleonaires $225,000 pitch contest for your business. It builds up your confidence, right? So for me, in being a farmer and stuff, and branding my farm and promoting my farm and just kind of getting out there and being able to have build a customer base, build clientele, I have to get out there and have conversations. But also on the business side, gaining access to funds, gaining access to startup capital and everything it was hard. It was expensive, right? So it makes sense for me to learn how to talk about my farm, how to pitch it to people, my 30-second elevator pitch. So I was entering pitch contests, $500 pitch contests, $225,000 pitch contests. I was just entering, you know, giveaways and contests and stuff like that in presenting my farm. It helped me work on my business plan. What do I need people to know about my farm? What's the mission? What's the vision? You know what I'm saying? How do I operate? What's my target audience? I went through all of these things to work and try to build my farm. And so once I've done that and I have the content to share, and I send it out to people, and they ignore it or be like, oh, you need me to come do this work. What? I want my stuff back. I want my stuff back, but I ain't doing no tripping. I'm going to charge it to the game. It is what it is. We're here for the content dump because there's so much of it that it needs to be dumped. It needs to be dumped. So um, let's see what else. Check out radio podcast. Man, that's crazy. Hold on, y'all, because I gotta switch to the different screen. I want to share. Oh, you know what? I know what that was and why I was doing that. Okay. Here it is, episode 6, the Checkout Podcast, Farming While Black. Okay. See, I can put that down like that. I'm gonna play a little bit of this, and y'all tell me if y'all can hear, if y'all hear a double thing. These are all questions that I get asked. I've been asked these questions so many times. How did you get into farming? How was being a veteran influenced you as a farmer? Let me see. I want to give it a test run and see if I can fix this. Let me know if it's a double sound, y'all.
Welcome to the checkout. This week's guest is Tiffany Washington, an Austin-based farmer and U.S. Navy combat veteran. Tiffany runs Daub & Cobb Community Garden Farm in East Austin and is a graduate of FarmShare Austin's Farmer Starter Program. Tiffany has also done extensive research into the history of Black freedmen communities, as well as her own family in Austin and Central Texas. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to the checkout, Tiffany Washington.
Hey, y'all.
Austin organic gardener and farmer extraordinaire. So let's get down to it. How'd you get interested in farming?
Oh man, so farming just kind of popped up on me. I think that it just became a lifestyle that I always wanted to get into. Like I always envisioned this on a farm where I was just kind of hanging out on a wraparound porch, like watching the fields, checking out the horses. And go to be a writer, and like where did I see me writing? How did I put myself in that writer space? So I created that literary lifestyle for myself through the farm, and I think that I was just kind of looking for something to do with some pets, my kids. We got some tortoises, and I got the tortoises because I'm scared of dogs. I do not like dogs. I don't like dogs, and I wanted a service animal, I just, because I'm a veteran, so I needed a service animal and just something to kind of help me kind of stay focused and just kind of go through a process of dealing with my PTSD. And so we got the tortoises, and we were doing some gardening and feeding the tortoises lettuce and stuff. And I was like, man, I should just kind of grow more of it. Like my husband was enjoying it. The kids were enjoying it. And so I just looked for more space, and like, I need more and more space. And so I was like, man, I found a 1/4 acre and just was like, this is the farm. This is Tiffany's farm.
Where'd you find the 1/4 acre?
So I actually spent time before kind of getting into farming. I kind of didn't know like what that meant, I didn't know what that looked like for me. So I was just kind of like browsing the internet, and I found FarmShare Austin, which is an 18-week farmer starter program where they teach you like the basics of farming, and they also include the entrepreneurial side, which is the farm business and stuff. And so I went through that program, and they actually have connections, or not necessarily connections, but they have, people who reach out to them and are looking for students or alumni who've gone through the program, who may be looking for land, or, who may be interested in farming. And that's kind of how it happened. I had a property owner reached out to FarmShare, and I was just in a position, I had just graduated, and I was just excited. I was like, let's go. It's like, I don't want to stop at school, it's this like the incubator, the graduation part, this is like grad school. I'm here. So, so I just went for it. And yeah, that was going on 3 years ago. I signed my lease in September of 2018. So, yep.
Right on. How did your experience as an armed forces veteran sort of inspire, influence this?
So it's just always put me in a position of wanting to be in service to my community and to my neighbor. I just kind of grew up in that environment. My grandmother was a local civil rights activist here. And then, my grandfather and my uncles, they were in the military. And so my family has always served other people, whether it's like in the church, the military, in the community, whatever. And so when I was in high school, I was a lifeguard. So, I used to work at the local swimming pools, Rosewood was the spot. And I would just was looking for something to do when I graduated high school, and I was like, well, I'm gonna just go to the Navy. I love the water, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I went to the military. I went in 2004. So I left in 2002, and I was deployed in 2004. So I'm a combat veteran, and it was rough. It was pretty rough because I was so young, and you don't think about going to war when you that young. You just kind of like, what's the next thing? And I had never been outside of Texas before, so excuse me. So I kind of found myself meeting other people from other places. And so I don't know, it just turns you into a different person. And then at the same time, I was in the military, going to war, it just kind of put you in a different place, you know what I'm saying? And then I struggled and dealt with like sexual harassment, and I didn't know what that meant when I was 19, 20 years old, but it was different from like what the boys treated me when I was in school, when I was in Texas, when I was home, so it just wasn't something that I had put myself in the mindset of back then. But as I got older, just my experiences with like even like racial discrimination, like misogyny, just like all kinds of these weird things that I wasn't prepared for leaving home really. At 18, I think just kind of hit me, and it just really sent me into a real major depression, and it was rough. So when I came home, I was just kind of looking for, a way to kind of heal from that. And it took me a long time. It took me about 10 years to even just kind of like find farming, So I think and it took me a long time to even realize that I was struggling with PTSD, and that it came from not only just like sexual trauma, but it just also came from combat trauma, just being confined in a space and, being at war, so um it was really rough to kind of overcome, myself, and I like struggle with like my focus and like my memory, and just it was just a lot. So getting into farming, it was my way of continuing to serve with a purpose. I finally I wanted because I wanted to work, but I had such a hard time with like my social anxiety and just like nervousness and just interacting with people, that I needed to really find a way to kind of settle myself and just and still find purpose, be of purpose. So getting into gardening and farming, and once I realized that I could just kind of once I realized I could serve my community through food, it just fell in place. It just like all fell in place. So
amazing. What role did FarmShare Austin play in your training and development as a farmer? You mentioned them earlier.
So FarmShare Austin definitely played a major role in me understanding how to seek out information on agriculture. Um, I also have ancestors who I'm looking for this colony, but anyway, edit that out. But but I also have ancestors who owned about 1,000 acres that backed up to McKinney State Park. Wow. So I just found that out very recently. And so that's been kind of tripping me out. But just to know that, like, when we go to these places, and it kind of made it seem like, oh, wow, the white people are just kind of hobby farming on the plantation now. Whoa, and it kind of, and it's kind of like, what is going on, because you don't see organic things. You don't see the Whole Foods in, the middle of 2-3 on the corner of Main and Rocky, where my farm is at, in communities that have typically been, marginalized in the city of Austin. So even the neighborhood I grew up in, there's corner stores, you got access to like the Jack in the Boxes and stuff like that, but you never just see access to fresh grown local food. You can definitely get that from the community gardens, right? But the majority of able-bodied people gotta work every day, and so like it's it's just not feasible to just kind of put it on a community garden to really feed people. But when you have urban farms and you have a farmer whose job and whose service and whose duty is to feed people, I would expect those farmers to be feeding everybody within the communities. And because I didn't know those farms was there, a lot of people I know didn't know those farms were there. It made me ask the question, who do these farmers serve? You know, what am I getting from like the boggy creeks and like the rain lilies, like the high spars, where does the food from JBG go? So I don't know. It just kind of really made me look at my local food system. It really made me look at my local agricultural industry and like the people who were, leaders within it. And none of them looked like me. And I don't think none of them were bothered that there was no one else at the table that looked like me either. So that bothered me. And it just told me this was where I was meant to be, and this is what I was meant to do. Because everybody deserves access to fresh, locally grown food, no matter who they are or where they live at.
Let's dig into this a little bit more, because you bring up a lot of really compelling points. So, how has the Black community in this area, Central Texas and Austin, been treated in regards to, land ownership, local food, farming, and, just food production opportunities and inclusion?
I'm gonna say that there is some type of deliberate they can't sit here thing going on still because like I say, when you look at, you have 17 freedmen's colonies scattered throughout Austin, Texas. And these weren't just small places. It's like 400 acres of land dedicated to just Black people living in it. St. John's, freedmen's colony, like Highland Mall used to be a Black orphanage in the 1930s, and it was like burned down. People don't know that.
Tell me more. This is amazing. Yeah. People don't know this.
Right. So, but so to that, they wanted the land to build the mall. So you got to get rid of the Black orphanage. It's 1930s. You get rid of those kids, you take the land, and we're going to shop here, So, and, now ACC's there, are they teaching, the Black kids to go to Austin Community College, that history? I don't know,
My daughter attended ACC. I don't think she ever came home to talk about this.
So, and then you have places like Red River, Barton Springs, you have all these places, Wheatsville, it's just so many different locations that were just self-sufficient. There used to be 17 Black grocery stores here. Used to be 2 Black-owned meat markets, a Black-owned fish market, and in my opinion, it was like Tulsa, and policy bombed it, instead of it burning down and catching on fire.
Tell me about, policy bombing. Let's talk about that a bit, because we're witnessing that next wave of gentrification in East Austin, but it goes further back than that. It's so much more insidious.
This wave is just the repeat of the 1928 city plan. And so the 1928, like literally page 57, 56, it tells you that in order to deal with segregation in the city of Austin, they have to start with the scattered number of Black population throughout the city. And for them, the best thing to do was to move all those Black colonies by force, didn't matter, whatever, move from Wheatsville, Clarksville, all these places to one side of East Avenue, which was I-35 at the time, and that was going to be near 11th Street on the other to the south of the city cemetery.
Right.
And so that was the largest, where they saw the most populated area, which is East Austin. They saw that area be populated more cultural. It was more Black Negro stuff going on over there. So they was like, well, why we just don't take them all and put them over there and call it the Negro District? So Austin was the first city in the state of Texas to have a Negro district, like a Black district. And for us, that's the historic East Austin. And we're being gentrified out of the historic East Austin with the new plan, give us a free ride train right up the middle, way north and way south, and then say, we got access to the whole city. But I don't know nobody that really, I know a lot of.
What happened to the
in East Austin now?
What happened to the freedmen's communities? You mentioned McKinney and a few others that are now either big housing developments or malls. So like
what happened to the freedmen's colonies was the Roaring 20s. Times changed. It was getting harder and harder to farm the land. Climate change, the topography and geography of like just the land started to change. And so a lot of the younger men who were slaves as children and were now freedmen, instead of clinging to that old farm plantation mentality, they started to move to Austin. And instead of farming, they sought other jobs as laborers, businessmen, apparently, because it was a lot of Black businesses out here. And just other things outside of the farms. And so the communities just started to dwindle, get smaller and smaller. I know for Kitchenville, my great uncle, Thomas Kitchen II, he actually ended up having to give it up and like for a subdivision, and like community went through it, so they were just moving, and that was in the 1960s. So there hasn't been like any Black urban farming inside of the city of Austin pretty much since Kitchenville. And as far as like produce, food, there hasn't been since like the 1960s. So that's almost 100 years. But I do know that it's like Ron Collins, he still owns a lot of his farm, his family's farm out in Pilot's Knob. So his ancestor, Newt Collins, owned Mueller.
Wow. That's Mueller being the former airport, which is now a huge development.
I can never look at Mueller the same ever again, because I used to just look at it as like, oh man, that used to be the spot. That was the airport, because I grew up when it was the airport.
Right.
So now when I see it, I'm like, man, there's a lot of stuff going on in Mueller. But now I'm like, oh my God, that used to be like a whole Black owned farm.
How did he sell it? How did he come to sell it or lose it?
I believe that in the research and the reading that I've done, he actually sold some of it. I'm not sure why, and I can't tell you why, but it was sold, and he bought land in Pilot's Knob, and his family moved to Pilot's Knob. So I don't know what replaced it after he purchased it or anything. I just kind of learned that in passing. I was like reading some articles and it popped up, and it was in the Statesman. That's where I read it in the Statesman, and I just kind of looked through some records. But Mr. Collins talks about it sometimes, and he was even on the news talking about the housing development that goes on right now out there. I think Eastern Park, the Eastern Park development backs up onto his property.
Wow. Yeah, I know that development because been out to McKinney Falls State Park plenty, and I've seen the new sprawl that they've built out there.
So McKinney's Falls is like definitely on my researching now whiteboard. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
researching now because a lot of people don't know that like it was a plantation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and Thomas McKinney owned a lot of slaves,
Mm-hmm.
and so his slaves were running the land and owning the land when he died. And then when his family donated the land as a park, the slaves were still living there, owning it. Well, not owning it,
Right.
but farming the land and living on it. So it's like, y'all just donated my house. What?
Wow. And so the slaves who had been living on McKinney's land that became the state park were displaced and not compensated.
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah.
Wow,
So,
that's an amazing history and incredibly tragic and so typical of this country. I want
yeah.
to expand the scope a bit, if you don't mind.
Sure.
My kids, when we grew up, my kids grew up in Austin. They used to spend a lot of time at the Carver Museum, the George Washington Carver Museum.
Mm-hmm.
And George Washington Carver is a personal hero of mine. And I'd like to understand from your perspective, why is he among the most influential agrarians ever? Researchers and not only black farmers and sharecroppers, but really as a forefather of the organic movement in a lot of ways.
Right. Excuse me. Right. I think that George Washington Carver is so influential because he is like this huge role model, right? He faced all these adversities. Um, he was pretty much an orphan. He was on his own, and he found a way to be, first of all, a scientist, but not just a scientist, a Black scientist. Like that right there is phenomenal. I get excited when I see these rarities, like Black scientist, Black librarian, Black farmer. I'm like, wow. So
Yeah, right on.
back right. So back then, to see somebody in that position, and to be newly freed, I think that he was just something to aspire to. And then it definitely, when it came to what he did in agriculture, and going out, that because that was his goal, that's what he said his passion was. That was his duty. I'm gonna take this knowledge and this thing that I love so much, and I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna share it with these people who've been doing it all their lives. The difference was they didn't have a formal education in it. There was no formal training. They were just of the land doing what they knew as they grew, from little babies on their mama's back watching them pick cotton. That's how they learned to do it. But he took that and took it a step further and went and got an actual education in it, which it made his experience even better. He wasn't just George Washington Carver, bigger than life, and I'm just me, and this is who I am, and I'm just gonna give you this information from afar. Like, he went out in his wagon,
Mm-hmm.
he was teaching and telling people, they should have just let him be the ag extension for Black people. They should have just gave him the whole thing and just was like, it's Carver's extension.
I just
I think.
read about a lot about Carver in this book, Freedom Farmers by
Yes.
Monica White, which is, it's among my favorites.
I need to get that book. I have been wanting to get that book and then the Farming While Black, but I got the Farming While Black one first. It was
Okay.
a birthday gift.
Oh my God.
So
what a book.
Yeah, I got that one first. It was a gift, and so I'm gonna work on getting that one.
Awesome. And so his impact, how did it spread? He did these showcases for farmers and sharecroppers all over the South, but his methods and the things that he actually taught, can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, I think it's just these things that make sense. I think that he was one of those men being a scientist. So you're gonna want to do something that makes things more efficient. And anytime you can make a person's life more efficient, I think that they're gonna pick up on that. And so I think that that's just something that they picked up and spread. So okay, let's make my life easier. So this is what I mean. My lifestyle. If I'm gonna be a farmer and I'm gonna live this lifestyle, I want to sit on the porch and watch it grow. So how can I do that? I gotta get efficient with my practices. I have to, do better things with my soil so I don't have to take so long to do this, So I feel like he gave them these tools to not only be farmers, but enjoy the benefits of what it was that they were sowing. Because you just be constantly in this, I'm farming, I got to farm, then I got to harvest, then I got to get the money and pay all the bills. No, he gave them the tools and these things to where they can really have a business and really grow and sustain, and be not only cultivators, but real farmers. Yeah.
Amazing. And, I think it sort of builds on the idea that the history that Black people are among the world's foremost farmers and food producers, like full stop.
Right.
Pioneered many of the practices we regard today as regenerative and organic. And, until now, though, why has this mostly been overlooked by local and organic food movements?
I think it's shame. I think it's just something, I think it's an embarrassing thing to talk about, because if you have to talk about Black people being like at the forefront of agriculture, you have to talk about why. And then it's like those farmers or people in those positions that can do that, they don't want to do that. It's the same thing with local farms. You don't want to say my farm was a plantation. Definitely not at the farm tour, right? Definitely not at the wedding. So it's kind of like
that's a mood killer.
Right. So you kind of run past it, you just kind of give it that blurb, but you be like, oh, we've been here 100 years, but that doesn't connect, because time is moving as time is passing. So you can continue to just clean it up, whitewash it, make it a little bit different, make it a little bit different. So, and that's what happens, and that's what has happened with the organic movement, because people ask me like about being organic, and I'm just like, I think I'm just a part of, that's just, I don't know what that means, and I have to go to like school and read about it and like do all that stuff, like, but no slave getting off the boat got a manual and said, grow this food organically. What? They just grew it. So I think that that's just a big difference, the difference is the education. Because like I said, when those men and women were freed, we're looking at putting millions of people in a school system that barely really existed, Not just, I don't want you to go to school here because you Black, but I don't want you to go to school here because hell, the school I got for them is falling apart. It's barely built up, It's like, I don't have nowhere to put you anyway, So I look at a lot of things from a lot of different ways than just, color. It's like, what is going on, So I think when you talk about that day, and it's the same, where was that gonna put them? Like, where are you gonna put all these kids that you teach at Urban Roots how to farm now? If you want to include them and be nice, it's like, now that you got them, where you putting them? I don't see none of them. Not a one of them.
So, I mean, once again, like digging into that, why aren't there more Black farmers here now in Austin and Central Texas, considering, how long the Black community has been here, how close to the land, and obviously all these issues that you bring up brings us to the present day. So I want to surface that and dig into that a bit more.
They didn't teach us that. Agriculture wasn't on the lesson plan. And I went to school in two places. I went to school in East Austin, and I graduated high school from Conley High School. I went to Wynn Elementary School, Barbara Jordan Elementary School, and Pierce Middle School for like 2 days. And then we moved. So we migrated, so this is the Black people migrating in Austin, as Colony Park got.
And so for our listeners, where is Colony Park? Is that a neighborhood in East Austin?
Yeah. Yes. So I grew up in a neighborhood in East Austin called Colony Park, and right now it's undergoing like major gentrification with the Colony Park district and all kinds of stuff going on at the Turner Roberts Rec Center. It is located off of Loyola, and it's between Decker and 183 and Ed Bluestein.
So Northeast Austin.
Northeast Austin. So yeah, it's that area that's all around the back behind LBJ High School and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Why aren't there more Black farmers here and in the Austin, Central Texas vicinity? The local food movement here has always been sparkly white, with a few exceptions, and that's starting to finally change. But what brought us to this point?
A lack of education, a lack of insisting there be education. I think there's just a lack of understanding and knowing about the food system and what that is. I think that and there's just no one, there just isn't anybody there that says, let's go out there today and make some Black farmers. I don't know why. But there's just not that thing. And it's hard to think about because the local food movement here, local food here in Austin is amazing. It's like, this good food. I'm a real local Austin foodie and I like to eat. So I love to eat. So when I think about who's my food, where is my food coming from? And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's coming from a farm. And, I think, oh, well, it's some white farmer farming somewhere. That's just the Farmer in the Dale song. You grew up, looking at the farmer, and, the farmer didn't never look like you anyway. So that's not something we do, and there's no reason why we don't do it. A lot of people ask about, like, is it because of the slavery connection? And I could say, yeah, that's a thing, because there was times when I was at Farm Share out there, like, sweating, hot, like, I'm not finna keep picking these carrots. I gotta go take me a break from my homies, my ancestors. About to go drink this coffee, and I'ma just look at it. I'ma watch them farm. No. Oh my God. But I just think that reclaiming your thing, like, this is just my connection to, like, nature and, like, the land and the community. And they teach you about gardening, like, they got the little gardens in school. I learned how to grow the monarch butterflies and stuff, but nobody was like, let me teach you how to be a farmer. We went to Pioneer Farms. They just showed us, like,
Pioneer, that's a loaded term.
Yep. They just showed us, the old shacks and stuff. Why is you taking me there anyway? Like, I'm 9.
That must be triggering.
I was 9, Now that I think back, it's like, y'all brought me here, but y'all didn't be like, here's a pamphlet. You want to go learn how to farm next month?
Yeah.
My mama would have signed me up.
Yeah.
So there's just this thing where people get this view of an industry and they say, this is just this thing that's for me. But I feel like that's wrong, especially when it comes to food, because then who's in control of my food?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
let's,
white people. Just
exactly.
It's like, I can't even eat. Like, I can't even eat. Because I can't eat. I don't know what's in it, who's growing it, where it's coming from. So I can't even eat without feeling like discriminated against. That's crazy. That's jacked up, you know. But
I mean, it brings us to a good point here is how does, what some researchers have termed food apartheid here in the United States, the food justice, food access issues. How does it influence your work and your passion for what you're growing? And what have you witnessed in your community regarding food insecurity and this overwhelming umbrella of food apartheid in this country?
You know what? Food apartheid made me feel like it was a war going on, because you gotta remember I'm a veteran, right?
Right.
So so when I heard that word, I was like, what is that? That sounds like they out here killing people over food. That's just what I got. That's just what I got. It's like, this is like a food war. And so when you go and you look it up and you hear all these people talk about it, and you hear how they related to the food system, and you hear how they related to, what happens, in communities and stuff, I'm like, that is crazy. They are trying to kill people over food. Like that's what I get from it, because who does that? And it's real. Like, and you really see it. Like, you can literally see the corner store, the liquor store, the Dairy Queen. Like, this is by my farm. I put my farm on the corner, a bus stop, a liquor store, a corner store, a random grocery place, and like down the street from a Dairy Queen. And that's really how it is in a community without the farm being there. And it's like that in a lot of communities. And you walk outside every day and you walk past those things, and those are the only things that you see, on top of the community being beat down just over years of lack of care, revitalization, unless a developer is coming in to change the look entirely, or new people are coming in. It's like there was no developer that cared, that wanted to put a nice little pretty farm cottage right there and grow food, like, for all these years. It's just one day they was just like, well, let's just build some condos right here in the hood. They'll go away. What? No, 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 no. So for me, if I can find every lot in the hood and put a farm on it, I would. I just ain't got enough money. But but that's how I see it. If you can buy the block, I'm gonna put a farm on the corner of the block that I buy. I don't know what nobody else gonna do, but it's enough space for it. You know, it's enough
Well,
space.
that's a great point. And so, what can be done to support more Black farm ownership and food production in Central Texas, and especially towards the goal of food access, and food security, like you're talking about? What resources, policies, what's needed?
I think that what is needed is definitely access to land, and definitely an acknowledgement of the Black farmer, that's a thing. Stop trying to make every person that's Black that want to grow food be a gardener, or stop trying to go shove them in a community garden somewhere where full well they can't take home no money to pay no bills. They got 5, 6 kids at home, but you want them to volunteer their time at the community garden all week and all weekend. No, life don't work like that. And that's a whack game. Like, and I hate it. Because that means that you don't want Black farmers. That means you don't want growers that own food production businesses. You want people who are staying in a place, sustaining what little they can, because what little can you get out of a community garden? Like, you look at Festival Beach is a popping garden. That garden is popping. Who the hell got time to be over there like that? I don't know no Black people in the hood that have time to hang out and hobby farm.
You
I
see
just
Festival
don't.
Beach as a part of gentrification in East Austin?
Yep, yep, yep. Because I don't know if none of they need to go on a Festival Beach community garden field trip and go save some of the community gardens in the hood and make them look that pretty.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think it's an amazing distinction you're making between, compensated work as a farmer feeding your community versus, volunteer, essentially hobby farming in a garden.
Yeah.
Speaking of farming, what's your favorite stuff to grow?
Oh man, I like to grow baby veg. So I like to grow little bitty Matt's wild cherry tomatoes. I just walk around eating them. And then I love to grow broccoli because I love cheese and broccoli casserole. And so
How well does that grow in your area there? It
it
tends to
grows
need
good.
yeah. How many months of the year are you pulling broccoli up?
I only pulled it up maybe 2 months. And the first time I grew it was this past winter. Last winter and went into the spring. But we're gonna get some more in. So that's my favorite thing to grow. I really enjoy growing the collard greens, but that was only because everybody loved collard greens. All the black people gonna eat the collard greens.
Yeah.
So
love collard greens.
Yes. So
you grow mustards? Other mustards?
I grow mustards. Yeah, I grow mustards too. But just baby veg. I really enjoyed. So my favorites are gonna be broccoli and strawberries.
Awesome. You have a particular variety of strawberries?
I don't have a particular variety of strawberries. I don't. I guess it's those ever-bearing ones that are like just all the time or whatever. They're kind of small.
How's your farm looking
grew
now?
those. The kids grew those ones. My farm is right now it's dry.
Is it okra and eggplant still coming?
No.
Got some squash?
No, everything is dead. Everything
We're recording this in August,
right now.
So for those, in Austin, it's the dead zone, and
it is definitely the dead zone. This morning, the weatherman showed me the week forecast, and it just had 103 across the boards, 101, 101. I was like, oh my God. But no, so for me, it's been a hard thing because the kids started back to school.
Right.
So I don't know. Does anybody else got a job? Cause my kids is logging in at 7:50, then logging off, and they gotta log back in at 9:30, and then they're logging off, and they gotta log back in again. And I'm like, but this child is 5. I gotta be here for that.
Yeah.
Like, he does not know how to use this laptop computer or how to Zoom. I don't know. And then my daughter is doing the same. And so it's just been a lot. So what I said I was gonna do is I'm the crazy experimental farmer, right? I'm just gonna grow, because for me this is just a passion thing, y'all. Honestly, like I like to grow food. So the last 2 years of my farm journey has just kind of been trial and error, just kind of growing stuff. And, I just sell what I can. I donate a lot of my veg to the fire department. I got a soft spot in my heart for the fire department. My fire department.
Yeah, right on.
For the firemen. They the most underrated on the squad.
Yeah.
So
nobody ever has beef with the fire department, mate.
No. Yeah. So I take them spicy mustard greens in the wintertime. They can warm up,
Nice.
I don't know. I'm just a weirdo. But whatever. I'm from Austin, right? Keeping it weird. But yeah, I just
So, your family's been in Austin then, I'm just doing the math here, like 150 years.
That's crazy.
That's amazing. So with that history, that legacy, what motivates you to keep doing this work and inspires you?
That I can preserve that history, that like, because things work in a cycle. And so I feel like that right now there's this cycle of Black heritage period that's becoming a thing. And so you're seeing this big group, this big fluctuation of especially young millennial, the new ager people younger than me, because I'm a millennial, whoever those people are younger than me.
Yeah.
They're like wanting to know about their heritage, right? So they're like taking heritage tours, and there's this thing. So there's going to be this big thing with like Black heritage tourism. And so, where the Black farms at? They want to go see that.
Mm.
I mean, if there aren't any, what are they're going to be mad. They're going to start being, what's the history? So they're going to start looking for the history. So it's just like right now, it's just this big deal for me to be a person that can help, people with that knowledge and with that information, because I just always like to learn stuff, and I like to know information, and especially historical information. And nobody told me to go be a farmer or a librarian or historian, like genealogist. Like, these is things people should have been telling me. They might have been telling the kids. I might not have been listening that week. But I must make it a point to start telling kids around me, You ever thought of like being a historian or like preserving history?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to have our own narratives. I feel like a lot of that is because there are no Black historians really out there that are preserving our narrative. Because you learn about like George Washington Carver from this like white narrative. That's how I learned about him. I just knew him as the man that grew peanuts.
Exactly.
So it's not till you get older that you seek out the information and you have to learn his narrative. And so now you can be like, oh, like, he didn't just grow peanuts. Like, he knew how to use it for everything, anything, not just peanuts, but like sweet potatoes. Like, and he was a scientist. He was an artist. Like, you don't, so I hate that disconnect is there when it comes to Black history. And I'm just a bookie, I'm just a book kind of person. So I love to read historical fiction. And I'm just gonna write a book about Austin.
That's what you got to do. That's amazing.
I'm gonna just do it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of books, what's on your bookshelf now?
Oh man, on my bookshelf right now, I've been reading The Black Titan. Is that what that is called? The Black Titan. My husband's about to go get my books off the bookshelf.
Awesome. And what are some of your favorite books ever?
Oh, my favorite books ever. So anything Anne of Green Gables.
Right on. My daughter liked that too. Right on. She's got great taste.
I'm very classic. I grew up just keeping it classic. My mom used to sit me in front of like the American Movie Classic channel. So nice. I grew up on like, Clark Gable and like all those old classic films. I'm just like, the world needs classic back. Gotta keep it classic. So, but Anne of Green Gables, I love that series. I used to read like, I don't know, I like science fiction novels. And then let me see, because I have this book in my head. I just read this book called Our Kind of People, and it's about the Black Boule, which is like the Black elite. And they're like the debutantes and your, just like the Southern balls, just that Southern Black elite. And so that's what that book was about. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
That was really interesting. Um, man, like as far as like farm stuff goes, I like to read stuff about growing mushrooms.
Oh, really? There's a new book
Yeah.
by Rupert Sheldrake that's coming out about fungal kingdom.
Oh, I need to check it out.
And
I'm going to check it out.
My bookshelf is right near my desk, so that's why I keep reaching for stuff. This is my favorite mushroom book, Mycorrhizal Planet by Michael Phillips.
That's on my Amazon wish list.
Nice.
Anybody wants to go buy it for me?
All right, listeners, Mycorrhizal Planet by Michael Phillips for Farmer Tiffany.
Yeah. I think, yeah. And I've been reading the Bible as a book, as a historical reference book, because, you know, when you read it as a historical novel, okay, these are what's on my 3. Rebuilding the Food Shed.
Oh, that's a wonderful book by Philip Ackerman, right?
Yes. So I'm reading that one, and then here's my Black Titan.
And who's that about?
And this is about A.G. Gadsden and the making of a Black American millionaire.
Right on.
So
who's the author, please?
The author is Carol Jenkins and Elizabeth Gardner Hines.
Awesome.
And I've been reading this book. It's really good. And then this is the other one, Our Kind of People Inside America's Black Upper Class. Like, this book was crazy. It was good. It was like, man, this, you know, because it's not, that's why I say it's so hard, you know, sometimes being in my industry, because I feel like I have to stand up against 2 different things. It's like I kind of have to stand up against this system that's just been this way, you know, this black and white race thing that's just for weirdos or whatever. But then you have like the Black elite, you know, the people who you have to prove yourself to as a Black person so that they'll open up these gates, you know, and let you in. And I think that that's crazy. And I think that that plays a part in a lot of the oppression we see in our communities as well. So it's like, you know, fighting against 2 hoods, you know? So, yeah. But those are some really good books.
Tiffany, so some closing thoughts from you. I mean, we've covered a wide range of topics, some pretty intense stuff. Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I would love to share with you guys that, you know, we're all in this together. We're all learning, and, you know, the world is moving in a new place, you know, and the new place is going to need us to be together as one family, as one team, you know, because we all want to eat. I don't know about y'all, but I like to eat good food. So I have every intention on continuing to grow food. I have every intention on continuing to tell people they should go out there and grow food, whether they look like me. But I definitely will focus on people who look like me. Little kids love me. So I'm just a teacher of, you know, love and agriculture. I'm your favorite agricultural socialite, y'all.
Awesome. That's the best closing we've had. Thank you so much, Tiffany. This has been an awesome conversation.
Thank you. Man, y'all, woo, that was a great interview. That was an amazing interview. I absolutely love that. Welcome, welcome everybody that has showed up. We are doing a Farmer Nancy content dump. We're not going nowhere. We're going to be here till the content is dumped. I got another one for y'all. Just sit back, go get you some refreshments. Y'all can bounce back and forth because I know we got other people that are probably live right now. But I told y'all in a couple of videos, maybe 3 or 4 videos back, I got to start helping y'all balance this mess out. You know what I'm saying? I got to give y'all something where y'all can come and just balance it all out. So let's pull up our next little bit of content here. Let me close out some of these screens. And if you weren't here in the beginning, you can definitely go check out my link tree. I'm going to share that up on the screen again. Pull up my link tree. Here's my actual link tree with every link that I have all of my content, whether it is news articles, interviews. The one we just listened to right now is the Check Out Radio podcast interview. So we just watched that. And I want to share with you guys this right here. This is something that I did with the Central Texas Young Farmers Coalition. And so this is an interview, and I'm gonna put that up on the screen just now. Hold on 1 second, and we're gonna let it play and we're gonna rock out to it. Share my screen again, and let me see, make sure y'all can hear it.
Okay. So welcome again. Thanks for joining us. So the Central Texas Young Farmers Coalition, we are a chapter of the National Young Farmers Coalition. We were founded in about 2012, 2013. We have a mission to support young and beginning growers in Central Texas through education, connection, and advocacy. We are fully volunteer run. The 4 folks, including myself, who are on the leadership crew, we are all also working.
All right, y'all. Sorry about that. I was talking and my mic was on mute. Okay, so I'm gonna play this for you guys, and while this plays, I want you guys to just enjoy it
and just doing the best we can. So why is this talk important? So the history of Black farming in Central Texas. Well, like I said, part of our mission is to educate folks, and especially in the food and farming community, especially here in Austin, the voices that we hear from are not voices that come from folks like Tiffany. They are, we have a very set idea of what local food looks like and what farming looks like. And it's really important to us to introduce new narratives so that we broaden our understanding of what farming is and what farming can be. I highly recommend that folks check out Chris Newman's writing from Sylvan Aqua Farms. He has been doing some really incredible writing on the mythology of the family farm and just really challenging it. And that's my dog in the background whipping up a chew toy, just in case you're wondering. Okay, so I want to just go through what this evening will look like. I'm going to introduce Tiffany. She's going to share her fantastic presentation. And then if we have time, hopefully, we will open it up to question and answers. So stay with us. Okay, so Tiffany, I've known Tiffany for a number of years now. We actually met back when I was working at FarmShare Austin, and she was doing the Farmer Starter Program. And if you know Tiffany in person, you know that she's magnetic, right? And she is a million different things. She's an organizer, she's a storyteller, an educator, a farmer, a mother, a veteran. She is honest in a way that few people I know are. And she's been doing all of this research, looking into her family's history and what farming has looked like in Austin before it was even called Austin. And is digging up all of that information that has previously been hidden. You're not going to find it in your history textbook in school. You're not even really going to be able to find a lot of it online. So this is really, really special that she's sharing all of this work. She presented about a month or so ago to the Texas Organic Gardeners, and so I got a sneak peek, and a few other folks have too. It was really incredible, and because I know what's coming, I want to just let you know that this isn't going to be a warm and fuzzy story about someone with a can-do attitude. There are parts of this presentation that are going to be really hard. And I invite you to remember that Tiffany is not an object or a movement or some sort of like superhero. Tiffany is a person. And this is really personal work. She's talking about her family here. She's talking about her community here. And so I just think it's really important that we remember that it's going to be painful at times, and that this is really hard. This is labor. And so with that, I invite you, as you listen, to stay present. This is not a time for multitasking, right? We really want everyone to be setting aside their phones, closing out their browsers, and really listening to what she has to say. And as we do that, and as we listen and learn, I suspect that a lot of us are going to have feelings that come up for us. And I invite you to sit with those feelings. So are you uncomfortable? Are you excited? Are you ashamed, inspired? Are you sad? Are you angry? All these different things are going to come up. And it's important for us not to turn away from them, but to really lean into them, right? My favorite thing about Tiffany, like I said, is how honest she is about our local food movement and how she's willing to hold it accountable. This is a no holds barred presentation. She's going to kick your ass, and it's really important for us to do that, because if we're going to change our food movement, if we're going to change our food system, then we can't get behind things that make us feel nice and happy, that we just feel like we can get behind because the narrative is cute. We need to be willing to be uncomfortable and challenge ourselves and give something up. So without any further ado, I'm going to give it over to Tiffany. You are muted, Tiffany.
Okay. I thought I was muted. Man, I don't even know what to say after that. I'm blushing. I got to put my cheekbones up. All right, hold on. Oh my goodness. Welcome y'all to tonight. I am Tiffany Washington. Everybody in my community calls me Farmer Nancy Farm Fancy. This is just what I do. I am a local farmer. I would call myself a generational farmer, but there was a nice long generational gap in farming for my family. So I took the time to really want to learn more about my history, my genealogy, where I came from. I know a lot of times when kids just started school, and one of the first things that they do is a tree, a timeline and a tree of, your family and stuff like that. And I always remember doing that when school started. So as I found my way to farming and I found myself on this journey as a veteran, kind of looking for something to help with my PTSD and looking for that thing that really settled me. My road to farming was just that. It was a peaceful place for me to put all my anxieties and all my nervousness. And I started looking at farming in my community, farming in my family, and there were a lot of things that I came across. So tonight I am going to talk to you guys about farming in Austin, Texas, the Black farm heritage, what it looks like in the foundation of the urban food culture for Black Austin. We can go to the next slide. So I'm gonna put my video, I'm gonna turn my video off because I'm gonna follow along on my own computer so that I can actually see it because I'm using my phone. So hold on one second. Okay. So this presentation is about Black Austin. It's about the urban food culture. We're going to focus on the stories and the contributions of food producers from communities that were of African descent in Travis County, Texas. Austin was established as the first Black cultural district of Texas. And in some cases, the research here that I have done was, again, um, for my own necessity, as I just wanted to look up my family. So the research is superficial. You can definitely do your own research into a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. And I can share information after the presentation. You can email me about it or whatever. So my work here and the work of others that I've worked with focuses on people, places, and it seeks to give an identity to Black Americans from the establishment of Travis County, Texas, and beyond. So when I started this presentation, or when I started this journey, I started looking at places, deeds and land grants, records from churches, cemeteries, businesses, schools, and libraries. And I was searching for people. I wanted to know who the people were in my family. So because I knew that my ancestors were slaves and I knew that they were most likely enslaved in the Austin Travis County area, I started with the slave censuses or the slave schedules. I looked at voter rolls and just US censuses in general. Here, there's a picture of a historical outline of the Negro in Travis County, and this was written in 1940. And it has a little history in there about how Blacks began with business here in Travis County. And you can go to the next slide. So my relationship with food, food for me has been a lifelong tradition, y'all. So when I talk about food, I'm talking about family food at the table. I grew up in a family where house parties, family reunions, we got together. The food was always good. We shared recipes. It was just that thing, that all encompassing family moment at the table with food for us. And that's where we would always hear our oral histories. Grandma would tell stories, and granddaddy would talk about his time in the country. And so for me, our food has always been a tradition in our community. I also have suffered from food traumas. One of my PTSD one of the secondary symptoms of my PTSD is binge eating. And I also suffer with bulimia. So I decided to kind of grow food as a way to feed my tortoises. So my first thing with growing the food wasn't like, I want to grow food and just be healthy. I had purchased tortoises for my kids as pets because they wanted pets and I wanted some type of service animal, but I'm scared of dogs. So I got tortoises. But we were spending so much money, like just buying lettuce. I was like, well, I can just grow the lettuce. So that's what I started doing. And the lettuce, it went from being lettuce to broccoli and onions, and I had rosemary in my backyard and peppers, and my husband was just like making salads and stuff. And that turned into my mom wanting me to grow food in her backyard, which just turned into, I need more space to grow this stuff. So it just intrigued me at how fascinated everybody around me was with the fact that I had just started growing food out of nowhere. And I was just like, it wasn't really out of nowhere. It was just something that calmed me. Like I said, I found that peaceful place. It was real stress relieving. And so I just was doing it. So it just took me by surprise that so many people in my family and around me and in my community were always kind of like, I can't believe you're growing food, And then my uncle started talking about food going to Mexico and, wearing ponchos and being out there in pineapple fields. And I'm just like, what are you talking about with these farms? So that turned into, is this something that I really want to do? Are people going to be looking at me like, you just kind of like, you don't feel like you're slaving away, or, that don't remind you of slavery? Well, duh, of course. But that's not going to stop me from going on this journey, and venturing down this path of becoming a farmer. There were so many people that were kind of like, you should do a community garden, or, you should do this. And I'm like, no, I want to be a farmer when I grow up. Like, I'm like, I don't know what y'all talking about, but this is my path and this is what I'm set on. So that's something that I started to do. And so that thought of just like bondage and like sharecropping and tenant farmers, it really almost kind of held me back, but it didn't, because at the same time I saw how powerful Black people had been in agriculture. I saw George Washington Carver. We grew up on that. That's like every Black History Month, MLK, George Washington Carver, they're gonna roll through the list of names that you learn about in school growing up. But they didn't teach us about him as an agriculturalist. They didn't tell us all of the things that he did in agriculture. They didn't talk about him traveling in his wagon to teach farmers who were just freely emancipated about farming and using peanuts as cover crops and crop rotations and stuff like that. They didn't teach us that. And then you start to learn about people like Booker T. Whatley, who started with the CSAs, and just you didn't learn about these people until you took yourself on a path of wanting to know, like I did. So next slide. And that leads us, of course, to the Black Austin communities and food. um like I said, you don't seek out those things. No one in the Black community was just kind of like, not today, not when I started, no one was really just looking for that, because they hadn't figured out how to understand the value of food, and how the Black Austin community had contributed to the food scene here. um in the beginning, I showed you an image from the Negro history in Travis County. And here's a picture that shows that in the year of 1936, the distribution of Negro businesses and professions in Austin was as follows. There were 17 grocery stores that were Black owned. There were 3 vegetable stands that were Black owned. There were also 2 meat markets and 1 fish market. So in the Black community, there was always a emphasis on food. There was always a value placed on food. Throughout time, we have lost our understanding about that value. And we've also, because of that, lost our relationship with the food, which has led to these narratives that talk about the disparities in our food system here locally, especially, which leads to this further narrative of food injustices. Next slide. So because of that lack of value that we've placed in the Black community on food, we see our health and wellness be compromised, our immune systems are weak. For example, you can look at plenty of stats about the Black and Brown community when it comes to this COVID pandemic. There's been this inability for us to consume healthy foods, pre-existing conditions and stuff. There's also this structural racism that has existed. So within the Black community, you see these empty lots, which, you know, developers turn into these low-income housing. And then if they're not low-income housing, they're just left there to be dilapidated housing. And then that's still when you see these large developers come in and start to gentrify the areas. And then you start to see this migration of wealth, of Black wealth. You start to see people who finish college or, you know, families who finally, get that promotion on a job, they start to move, and they start to move to suburban areas that aren't as dark as, where they originally started at. But in the wake of those things, when these people move out of the communities, you still start to see the people who want to hang on to that notion, that traditional value that we have on our food and our communities and our health and our wealth. So you start to see community gardens pop up, and you start to see us talk about how we want to reclaim the land in our communities. And then this urban food movement, starts to break out. And you start to see beautification with flowers and food, and just it just becomes this crazy ball of just, let's grow food, let's make it beautiful, let's do this. But it never actually makes it that far. Next slide. So what that begins to look like is not necessarily food injustices, but more so food apartheid. And they call it, these food deserts. There's this scarcity of healthy options. You have these corner stores everywhere, and you have these processed foods. My farm is literally on the corner across the street from like this. I have no idea. In 36 years, this is the first time I've ever seen the Oracle grocery store next door to a corner store like 2 blocks away from a Dairy Queen. So this is like literal design. These things are happening by literal design. So definitely remember this slide. Next one. So what are the food injustices? What is this all about when it comes to the Black communities and food? Well, it's about land access. It's about access to the land. You know, there is always some difficulty with Black farmers when it comes to access to urban land. You always have those land grabs, gentrification, displacement, and of course, redlining. I would get into some of this, y'all, but I don't want to go too deep because I have something at the end that I really, really want to share and I really want to get into. So, if there's no access to land, um, and there's no access to labor. In the Black community, when it comes to food and agriculture, there's no access to labor. There's a small number of Black growers. There's no number of farmers of color. Um, there needs to be diversity in training, advocacy for the Black farmer, technology, access to technology and machinery, and also capital. We have to have some type of access to cash flow, that traditional means of self-sustainability. And that all goes back to being able to sell what we produce as farmers and growers in the Black community. And that leads to entrepreneurship. The lack of these things keeps entrepreneurs, food entrepreneurs like myself, out of the conversation. Next slide. So you can say, how is all of this? Why is all of this? And how did we get here? So let me give y'all a brief history of Texas. So we all know Stephen F. Austin came here, 300 families brought him to the region in 1825. So when Stephen F. Austin came here, there were definitely stipulations. Mexico was like, you're going to come here. You're not going to bring your slaves. You're not going to be speaking anything. You need to be speaking Spanish, change to Catholicism, and you got to be on your land for like at least 10 years. They were like, all right, cool, we'll do that. So they established on the 640 acres along the Colorado River in 1839. But they definitely did not do that. They were like, whatever. Stephen F. Austin, straight out his mouth, was like, there's no way the city of Austin is going to be able to make it unless we have slave labor and we out here picking cotton. Bottom line, period. So those things definitely led to the Mexican War of 1846 to 48. And as y'all know, we here. Mexico lost. Capital of Texas was established in 1846. That all encompasses this thing that grew out of slavery being established in Texas, this thing called urban slavery. And I've had these conversations with people where they're like, what is that? I don't understand what you're talking about. Urban slavery is slavery where large plantations, not even large, but small scale plantations with about 20 or less slaves were actually like micro farming, micro plantations. And those types of farms popped up all over the city of Austin. So we're going to look at that 1825 and beyond, the condition and the mindsets of urban slavery. Next slide. So urban slavery, the mindsets and the condition. So in 1845, the Texas state legislature passed a series of slave codes to regulate the behavior of African Americans who were enslaved and to restrict the rights of those who were free. The treatment of African Americans and slaves in Texas may have varied on the basis of the disposition of individual slaveholders. It was clear that white Texans in general accepted and defended slavery. Slaveholders dominated the state's economic and political life. Your local favorite slaveholders, Burleson, McKinney, Peace, Hancock, Hornsby, Moore, there's so many more to name, Barton, Burnett. So it's like there's so many more to name. This city was built on by slavery, through slavery, with slaveholders. You know, that was just the thing. And here's a picture and act of to define and declare the rights of persons lately known as slaves and free persons of color. So this is out of the slave codes, and it says in section 1, being enacted by the legislature of the state of Texas, that all persons heretofore known as slaves and free persons of color shall have the right to make and enforce contracts, to sue and be sued, to inherit, purchase, lease, wholesale, and convey real, personal, and mixed estate. Like, I can't even keep reading that because the fact that that's even written blows my mind. Next slide. So, like we say, urban slavery was a condition, it was a mindset. There was no way that Austin was going to make it unless the cotton was being picked, unless there was fresh food and grain being grown somewhere. You know, it had to happen. And one of the fallouts of that happening is that you're going to always see these things where the control is there's this means to need to enact power over those people that built a city so beautiful and vast as Austin, you know, and at the same time keep them in a position to where their condition and their mindset doesn't allow them to partake in those old traditions anymore that sustain them through those hard times they were placed through. For instance, even after emancipation, which we're about to get into, you still had the lynchings of Black people here in Travis County. And this is actually there's a project that they did to find all the lynchings throughout all the counties in the United States. And this was one of the lynchings that they found here in Travis County. And it was just a woman, and two men who were accused of, the woman was accused of harming or killing her families that she worked for child. And they actually took them out of the jail. I mean, they were in jail, so, you know, some type of justice was being served. But, you know, a mob took it upon themselves to remove them from the jail and hang them. So that was just a look at the violence in 1894. Next slide. So if that was the violence in 1894, we can just imagine the violence on Black freedmen right after emancipation. And the Emancipation Proclamation happened with Abraham Lincoln September 22nd, 1862, during the Civil War. He stated under federal law that more than 3.5 million enslaved African Americans were to be freed. And this was actually enacted for sure January 1st, 1863. So it was in full effect in 1863. Next slide. So with emancipation, this says what the president recommends the Blacks to do. And it talks about, you know, what the next step is for Blacks and what they should go about doing. And it's really interesting because it's just this blanket statement of kind of like you're free. So, you know, kind of figure it out. Next slide. And in figuring it out meant figuring out literally that you were free, because it took 2 years literally for the news to reach Galveston here in Texas. And on June 19th, 1865, nearly 200,000 men, women, and children enslaved in Texas learned of their emancipation. And this is a Juneteenth celebration right here in Austin, Texas in 1900. Next slide. And as a response to the freedom of previously enslaved people, the Freedmen's Bureau was established. So the Freedmen's Bureau was also known as the Bureau for Enslaved Refugees and Enslaved Peoples. Basically, the Freedmen's Bureau gave you the tools. You know, Abraham Lincoln was just like, you know, y'all are free. Here's what you should do next. Basically, go find a Freedmen's Bureau. You know, you're out here. You just got basically probably kicked off the plantation. You're free. You know, what do you do next? The Freedmen's Bureau literally went out of their way to kind of help and make sure that newly freed men had clothes, they had food, that they found them places to stay. But even they were stopped in their work. The cities in Texas passed Black codes in 1866 to restrict the rights of African Americans and to prevent them from having free access to public facilities, and to force them back to the rural areas as what? Agricultural laborers. So what were the freedmen doing before they were freedmen, y'all? They were agricultural laborers, better known as slaves. The use of political and legal of the political and legal system to regulate African American behavior and life was accompanied by a literal reign of terror in the state. According to the records of the Freedmen's Bureau from 1865 to 1868, white Texans committed over 1,500 acts of violence against African Americans. Whites murdered over 370 African Americans. These acts of violence by whites represented their attempts to reestablish white supremacy and to force African Americans back into their place. And what was their place, y'all? Agricultural laborers. Next slide. So these are just a couple of letters that the Freedmen Bureau would send out and that has sent out here in Travis County. The first letter to your far left is a letter that was written from the Freedmen's Bureau, and it talks about Blacks from a Freedmen's community in Southeast Travis County who were being harassed as they were doing baptisms in a nearby creek. And the Freedmen's Bureau was requesting that the white people who were doing the harassing be stopped and spoken to. The second letter is a letter written to a Captain Byron Porter here in Austin, Texas, that a freedman wrote and said that he wanted his $15 for pay. This last letter is from the Freedmen's Bureau in Bastrop County, September 2nd, 1866. And it's from a Mr. Andrew Jackson, a freedman. And he was writing to a Mr. Jordan. and he was asking Mr. Jordan to return his two kids, a boy and a girl, ages 11 and 12. This was 1866, and he was free, and he wanted Mr. Jordan to give him his kids back. Mr. Jordan's response was no. Next slide. So the National Historical Emancipation Trail study was actually something that was approved January 27th of 2020. And it's a study of a trail from Southeast Texas that should receive national designation because this is the trail that the news of freedom was taken along. Next slide. So here's a migration of Black families to Travis County, Austin, Texas, following emancipation. And so this is definitely one of the reasons that a lot of this interests me, because my family is one of those families of enslaved people, newly freed men, who were able to build their own communities and start to migrate here into Travis County. So right on the border of Hayes and Travis County, of course, you guys know of a city called Buda. There in Buda is Antioch Colony, and my family, the Kavanaugh and Bunton families, are actually from Antioch. They were slaves, and they were enslaved by John Wheeler Bunton, whose plantation was in Mountain City, and you'll be able to see that on a map that I'm going to have here next. So in after emancipation, 1865, when my great-grandfathers, Elias Bunton and George Washington Kavanaugh, were freed, they were given an opportunity by Mr. Joseph Rowley, a land developer from California, to purchase land out there in Buda for about $5 per acre following the Civil War. The Antioch colony actually predates the city of Buda by 10 years. And there were 10 to 15 families that established the farming settlement on about 400 acres. And those were the Buttons, Kavanaughs, Champs, Harpers, Beards, and Taylors, among a couple of others. These ones are duly noted because a lot of them are in my family tree. And that is the church that is actually still there. And those are my nieces. Those are my brother's kids. Next slide. So out in Antioch, farmers raise corn and other grains, cotton and sugar cane. They use mule-powered mills that process their corn and bran and produce sorghum molasses. So in 1874, Elias and Clarissa donated the land for the school, and George Washington Kavanaugh Sr. donated the land for a church. So the church and the school were places of socialization. You know, this is where they went to eat together, do potlucks. This is where they went, you know, for their family gatherings, the whole church, to learn, to educate each other, you know, to just come together as a community. And in 1869, just like, I mean, we saw lynchings in 1894. So, you know, 1874, we can just imagine, you know, what this community had to go through. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of the farming be focused on making sure that the community is fed, making sure that the community is clothed. You know, they weren't going to go outside of that general area, you know, because in Bear Creek, you know, it was filled with white people. They literally called this colony Negro colony, like harsh R colony. That's deep. So no, we weren't leaving. I wasn't letting my kids go down the block past the fencing of the 400 acres. This is us. This is where we're living. And so you had these communities start to pop up in Hayes County, and you started to see them pop up in Southeast Travis County and across the city of Austin in general. Next slide. So this is the cemetery. I'm definitely gonna pay homage here because we recently just had an incident in Austin where one of our Black cemeteries was defaced and vandalized. And it's a real hard pill to swallow because as I do my research, I found a lot of plantations. And on these plantations, you know, they had these slaves who were in their 80s and 90s. You know, I found a census with a 100-year-old female slave on it. So I know they had to bury them somewhere. So they're buried unmarked on these plantations that, you know, the city doesn't talk about, but we're going to talk about them. Next slide. So as you see the migration of Black families into Travis County, like I said, down here in the circle, you'll see Mountain City at the bottom right circle on the picture on the left. That is the location of the John Willer Button Plantation. And as you go further northeastish, you start to see Antioch, Colony, and Buda. And then if you see the line there, there's Manchaca and Rose Colony. These circles show places where there were plantations or there were colonies that popped up where Blacks were making a home for themselves after emancipation. So here the Williams farmstead was where Ransom and Sarah Williams actually in 1985 had their family farmstead, and that's what it kind of looked like. Next slide. And here's a closer view. The 45-acre farmstead of the property was actually built over by SH 45. But the city of Austin or University of Texas did an excavation of the land and were able to go in and try to preserve some of the stuff. And you can kind of see it in relation to Austin in East Austin up in the far right. So you start to see this bowl in Southeast Travis County of agriculture and Black farmers and Black farm communities start to really fan out across that southern southeastern corridor near like McKinney Falls and Paulus Knob and Creedmoor and Colton. Like all these places are like filled with these Black farmers and in their Black farming operations. Next slide. Travis County encompasses today 4 precincts. Precincts 1, 2, 3, and 4 are listed here. In precinct 1, you have Pflugerville, Manor. Precinct 2 is Austin. 3, BK, Sunset Valley, Lago Vista, Oak Hill. I used to live in Oak Hill. Precinct 4, Bluff Springs, Creedmoor, Elroy, and Manchaca Del Valley. Next slide. And this is just an overview of a map from Google Maps. Next slide. So these are your freedmen settlements at a glance. They include Barton Springs, a lot of well-known names, Wheatsville, Clarksville, but there's also some too many people wouldn't know a lot about, like Manchaca, Montopolis, Red River Street. These are freedmen settlements that were farming communities and had some sense of farming within them because they were feeding each other and, they were feeding other people around them. Next slide. So moving forward from those slides, we're going to step into the Black Farmer Files, and it's a retrospective look at African-American farming in Austin, Texas, and your local librarian, Kimberly Keaton at the Austin History Center. She's an archivist as well as a genealogist, and she had put together this amazing slide and presentation on Black farmers. And she gave the presentation at the Mueller Farmers Market one afternoon, and me and my kids went out there and we listened to her presentation. And at the end of it, she said, "I haven't been able to find any Black farmers in Austin who are actively farming." And I raised my hand and I said, "Well, I'm one." And since that day, me and Kim have been really good friends. And so I definitely want to just say that you can definitely look up this presentation and take a look at it. I think we were going to take like a little break here.
Yeah, and instead of doing the full 5 minutes, let's just take 3 minutes. Give Tiffany a second to breathe.
Yes.
So go ahead and stand up, take a stretch, take a step outside if you need to, get some water, use the bathroom. This is a lot of information to take in, and for a lot of us, it's the first time we're being exposed to it. So just go and do your processing, and then we'll be back. We'll be back here in just a few minutes.
All righty.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Will I get the music this time?
You want some? Here, I'll put on some of it.
All right.
What are you feeling?
Yeah, anything. Just whatever you're gonna put on at the start.
All right, but I'm gonna warn you, it's like hipster nonsense music.
Oh, I'm from Austin.
That's true.
Okay, be right back.
That's where you.
All right, Tiffany, are you ready to dive back in?
Began to build their own community. Rates began to be freed from working for no wages. We saw that they began to build their own communities based on that knowledge and experience that they had. And we started to see them be very successful. We started to see that Black farmers across Texas, the land ownership rates began to rise rapidly from 1.8% in 1870 to 26% in 1890. And we saw that become an all-time high of 31% soon after 1900. So many of these new Black Texas land owners resided in freedmen settlements. They were informal communities of Black farmers and stockmen that were scattered across the eastern half of the state. Here is an excerpt that talks about the driving of Black farmers from their land. You would see that previous masters would covertly hold Blacks in slavery long after their official emancipation. They would burn their freedmen schools. They would burn the churches. They would drive them from the land and punish the Blacks for mere acts of, reporting those things to the Freedmen's Bureau. Like, you could get killed for reporting that Mr. Jordan refused to give you back your kids, so you saw these real harsh things start to spread after emancipation that were, I'm going to say, even harsher than being enslaved. Next slide. And here's just a brief timeline, history of the African American farming. Talks about the first slaves being brought here in the 18th century and the African American farmer in the 1900s. In 1997, there were close to 3,462 Black farms in the South. And in the 21st century, when we're talking about Black farming today, nationally, Black farmers were 1.4% of the country's 3.2 million farmers in 2012. Freestone County, Texas had more Black farmers than any other county. And when I read that, it makes me kind of feel it. I don't know if I feel discouraged or if I feel angry, because I live in the capital of Texas, and Texas is one of the largest agricultural states in the United States. And to be living in the capital of Texas and to be one of the only Black farmers here, the only Black farmer here um, in Travis County, like the only one that's like out here saying, we're here, I'm about to farm, it kind of rattles me a little bit, y'all. Next slide. So here's just an amazing photo of a man with a pig. He's out there demonstrating. And that's what I like to see, like this beautiful panoramic image of these wonderful, amazing people who are learning. And in this picture, I see so many small faces. I see these little baby kid faces just learning, about this pig. So this is a very inspiring photo to me. Next slide. U.S. agricultural history and the Black farmer, the role of African Americans in the 1920th centuries. Blacks were employed without wages in agriculture in the United States. There's no doubt about it. At this point in the presentation, we know that Blacks were employed without wages in agriculture in Austin, Texas, for their resilience and knowledge of the industry. With the growth of slavery and plantation agriculture, economic growth was boosted. This whitewashed the role of slaves as growers, food producers, and farm laborers. Any white man who owned enough slaves could call themselves a farmer. Slavery was abolished. The freed slaves began to own their own land. From 1865 to 1932, there was this rise in tenant farming and sharecropping. That became the way of life for the Black farmers. You can't own the land because if you own it, you're going to have problems. Don't nobody have time for that. So yes, I'll just go ahead. I'll be a tenant farmer. This is what I got to do to feed my community. Not cool. Feed my kids. Definitely not cool. So Black farmers were still trying to become independent in the 1900s, but that, like we said, that just wasn't happening. We've showed where, their past masters were doing everything they could to stop them from being productive and prosperous. Next slide. She cute. So, so this is a beautiful woman, a beautiful Black woman, standing in a beautiful field of food. Those look like onions or garlic or something growing right there, but just another amazing photo of Black farmer. So the Travis County, starting to kind of narrow this down locally, still definitely want to focus on local food culture here in Austin, Texas. The Travis County Negro Extension Service was established in 1915. So you didn't even see support for the Negro in Travis County as far as agriculture until 1915. In the Travis County Extension Service was located at 1154 Lydia Street. I think over there off Lydia is like Tony's Jamaican food truck. Like that's one of my favorite restaurants. Go eat there. Next slide. So this Travis County extension really didn't do too much to support the established farmer, that farmer that was a slave who went into being a freedman, who was building their farms and their own homesteads after the Civil War. And these are a couple of those farmers. So at the end of the Civil War, Reuben Hancock and his brothers Orange, Salem, and Peyton bought the land in the area north of Austin. Reuben and Elizabeth Hancock would go on to establish a productive farm, raise a family, and create a small but stable community of African American farmers. Today, that area is known as Loop 1 in Palmer Lane in North Austin. And so here you can see just areas of the yard, the dump area. There's a dog burial, a pit feature. This is just a map of their homestead out there on Loop 1. So every time y'all pass Loop 1 and Palmer Lane, when y'all taking the loop, Just do a little head nod for Reuben and Elizabeth. Elizabeth Hancock died. Next slide. Elizabeth Hancock died in 1899. Reuben continued to work on the farm well into his 60s, finally leaving the farm to his daughters in 1916. So the extension wasn't started until 1915. So Reuben didn't have the luxury of working with the Travis County Extension, but his daughters may have had the opportunity. However, they kept the farm until 1942 when the house was finally moved off site. Um, so that means that they probably didn't have any success with continuing their farm practices based on the support they may have or may not have been getting from the Travis County Extension. Next slide. And here's another look at a Black farmer, Mr. Thomas Kinchin. Thomas Kinchin is on my family tree as my sixth great grandfather on my mother's side. And he established Kinchinville, which was a site that is now in Southwest Austin, Travis County. And it is currently bordered, it used to be bordered by what is Pisano Trail on the north, Davis Lane on the south, Brody Lane on the west, and Longview Road on the east. The community was established by Thomas Kinchin in June of 1865. So you see with emancipation, after it, you have this thing of they have to go, they have to get out. If it would have been me, I wouldn't have went nowhere because you can't beat on me and put me out of my house. I've been living here, taking care of stuff, the kids, the fields, all that. You've been beating me. Now that's over. You got to move, not me. That's just how I would have, maybe some people did say that, but that's just how I think about it today. We don't put out, domestic abuse victims. So I don't understand why that happened back then. But Thomas Kinchin started this community, and it was predominantly Black. However, Hispanics and Anglo settlers were there. It remained a small farming community until Thomas Kinchin's son, Thomas Kinchin II, began to promote the development of a subdivision there. So this is probably one of the last farming communities that you see kind of begin to die out in Travis County is Kinchinville. In my opinion, I don't know. Next slide. So by the 1880s, tenant farming you began to see more tenant farming. The communities were kind of going away. It was more tenant farming. Tenant farmers accounted for 40% of the farmers in Texas. So they were generally denied the rights afforded or accorded to Anglos, and they did not have the ability to sue their landowners for compensation. All tenant farmers and sharecroppers were beholden to their landowner, who controlled every aspect of their livelihood. Next slide. And this is just a video, The Negro Farmer, 1938. You can definitely find this on YouTube. You should definitely check it out. It talks about the stay at home initiative that the USDA put out, basically going around and telling Black families, just stay home, learn how to farm right there at the crib, make your butter, harvest your eggs from your chickens. Like, this is like literally these good old boys and good old girls need to just stay home and grow food. So it's a very interesting video. Y'all check it out when you got time. Next slide. So what happened? We see that agricultural laborers, Black farmers, Black food in Austin is needed during slavery. We see that it is something, agriculture, whether it's picking cotton or is, picking good foodstuffs to feed Stephen F. Austin when he go visit, or Sam Houston, or when it's good old feeding Sam Houston when he's over there visiting Boggy Creek Farm, back in 1842 when Alfred got married. The good foodstuffs there, somebody picked that. So like I'm sorry, y'all, but this kind of drives me sometimes. So we see this stuff happening, and you want to know what happened. The city plans these things. You see the success of these businesses, the success of the Black grocery stores in 1939. You see the success of, Black farming communities. You see the success of just Black farmers, this Black food movement. You see the success. And instead of a Tulsa bombing, you have a Austin policy drop. The city of Austin in 1928 just devises this city plan and dumps it on the city. And that this plan was architected by the city because they wanted the land to grow the center of the city, and they wanted there to be a city without minorities. Minority rights and minority wealth were sacrificed for the greater good. Minority rights and minority wealth were sacrificed for the greater good, as defined by Austin's Powerful. Today, a similar change is occurring. All these new city plans, all these plans just be repackaged, rebranded bullshit, like from slavery. And the city sometimes should literally be ashamed of itself. I have here with me an actual copy of the city plan. I don't know if you can put it back on. You don't even have to put it back. I'ma just read it and I'll show it to y'all. So on page 57 of a city plan for Austin Travis County, it states, and so this is it right here. So y'all can see that I actually literally got it in my hands. It says on page 57, in our studies in Austin, we have found that the Negroes are present in small numbers, in particular in practically all sections of the city, except in the area just east of East Avenue, which is I-35, and south of the city cemetery. This area seems to be all Negro population, freedmen's colonies. It is our recommendation that the nearest approach to the solution of the race segregation problem will be the recommendation of this district as a Negro district, and that all the facilities and conveniences be provided to Negroes in this district as an incentive to draw the Negro population to this area. This will eliminate the necessity of duplication of white and Black schools, white and Black parks, and other duplicate facilities for this area. We are recommending that sufficient areable required, what does it say? That sufficient area be acquired adjoining the Negro High School to provide adequate space for a complete Negro playfield in connection with the Negro High School. That was Austin High. So this city was built to be said. This city was built like this. The food culture was built to be segregated. And it was built to be so segregated that we have absolutely no agricultural identity as Black people in the city of Austin. That right there is about to change. Next slide. So this is a map that I actually drew by hand. Agriculture production in Southeast Travis County and the East Northeast Austin corridor, back during the Emancipation and Freedmen colonies times. This shows plantations in relation. Typically what happened was the freedmen would leave the plantation, migrate, and set up communities, colonies, start farming on new lands or land that their slave owner had, designated to them, maybe given to them as severance pay. They may have bought it from somebody who had bought land close to a plantation, because in my mind, that's what I would do. I would just be like, y'all already right here. I'm a developer. I'm about to make this money. I'm gonna buy some land when these slaves free. Y'all can just buy it from me. Y'all don't even gotta go for it. You know, you still right here close to what you know. Just makes sense. So my goal at this point is to let the city of Austin know that at no point, at no time, in no record, in no way did they go out and try to historically or try to preserve the historical records of Black farming and Black agriculture in Austin, Texas. There's no Black farm heritage to be shared. That shows me a big old lack of honor, courage, and commitment on the part of the city. And that has to change because children of color, especially Black kids whose families' ancestors were enslaved agricultural laborers, they deserve education in agriculture. Just because they Black don't mean they don't want to know about farming. That makes absolutely no sense. They deserve education and training and youth development in 4-H programs. They deserve to be able to get access to land into the marketplaces here in Austin. And when we say the marketplace, there's a lot of people who say, what about local food? Local food don't look like me. And that's crazy. Next slide. Why is any of this important? All of this is important. All of this comes back to the fact that Texas has more Black farmers than any other state, but they make up only 3% of the state's total farmers. Black operators tend to be older than operators overall. Their average age in 2012 was 61.9 years old. And the top farming commodities included beef, cattle, combination crops, oil seeds, grains, combination animals, and vegetables and melons. Y'all, Black farms stolen. There is an African proverb that goes, until the lions have their own historians, the history of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Next slide. And to reiterate, why does this matter? Because throughout half of the 20th century, Austin had a three-way social segregation system that with Anglos, Mexicans, and African Americans separated by law. This wasn't, oh, just don't go food with them. This was, let's go sit down and write down laws on paper to say, we separating this. I haven't seen where they went back in the city of Austin and sat down and wrote down laws that unseparated it. I just haven't. I'm just gonna put that out there. Next slide. So what is wrong with Austin's urban food movement? It is a continuous perpetuation of the urban slave mindset and condition. And so I definitely want to play this for y'all. It's a quick video, but I just want you to watch it and kind of take it in.
Can you hear it? Tiffany, can you hear that?
No, I can't hear it. You might have to go into full screen presentation. I don't know.
And this is where we find out that I don't know how to do this. Try share your audio from the screen share menu. Oh my gosh, y'all are. I don't know where to do yes. That. Where do I find the thing?
She said exit out of screen share and menu share.
Oops. Y'all have a lot of faith in me. Sorry, you guys.
It's being evil.
I cannot figure out how to share my audio. Did you see the exit out of screen share? Yeah, but I don't know. New share? Share computer sound. Ah, I'm almost there. I'm super close. Super, super close. Okay. Share computer sound. Okay. We should have practiced this earlier, Tiffany.
I know we didn't think about that part.
We didn't think about this part.
If not,
was that working now?
No, I can play the audio maybe from my computer on my mic, and you can just play the video. Or no?
Today, farmers will.
Here it is. Yes.
Local chefs will be giving demonstrations on food made from local farms, and we'll get lots of great information on how to access food locally. So let's go find out what they're doing.
Floodplain. So it's this amazing soil, and 22 feet down is water. So when we bought this place, it had 2 hand-dug wells. This was just meant to be farmed. People were interested, and we had more produce than we knew what to do with, so we opened a little farm stand. And then I guess it just kind of evolved organically, right? That's my favorite part.
I started kind of getting into the local food movement, and I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for a long time, and I started realizing that I was just eating really unhealthy. And I live right up the road, so I always drove by, and I just started coming in and talking to Paul and Glenn, and they just became like really good friends of mine. And they asked me one day if like I wanted to help out, and of course I wanted to. I would do anything to just be here all the time.
I try to buy as much local food as possible, shopping at like Wheatsville and Ingredients. Those are 2 stores, and all the farmers markets.
This is my favorite place in Austin. I love the chickens. I think everybody should come here. I think they should see what it's like to work your land. It doesn't happen as much anymore. And it's great to have chickens in the neighborhood.
Once you taste farm fresh produce, you can never go back. It's just the taste is so different. The nutrition, you can just feel it when you're eating it, that you know you're eating like good food.
Even if it doesn't taste better, it tastes better. It's in your mind. I don't know, it's just better for the environment.
I think it's much better than eating corporate food, which I'm pretty sure everybody in Texas is eating.
You know the people who are farming it, so it's like, you know that they're not going to put anything in it that is poisonous or chemical or anything.
100 years ago, it seemed like almost everyone either produced their own food, or what they didn't produce, they got it from their neighbor. And so that was very common in my childhood.
We're just here today because Texas was voted lowest in the country for local food consumption. And so we're kind of interested in why people are interested in urban farms and why they're here today.
Okay.
How much local food they eat.
Yeah. I guess I was really interested coming out today just to see what the local farms had to offer and what they provide.
First of all, let me say how stupid that Texas is at the bottom. We find ourselves at the bottom of all sorts of horrible statistics, and that's a really bad one because so much food is being grown in Texas. So why aren't we sourcing locally? So I'm ashamed of us.
Well, that surprises me a little bit, but I feel like we live in a bubble here in Austin. We're very lucky to have access to a lot of locally grown produce. We have a long way to go. There's a lot of work to do.
I think that's sad.
Tiffany, I'm just going to pause us so that we can keep going because we're already.
Yes, no, yeah, definitely. So the entirety of that video, I watched it, and all I could think was, first of all, where was the Black people at? Second of all, there's no way. Next slide. This slide right here. Go back. This slide right here. There is no way that we can be talking about food deserts and food insecurity in the city of Austin when we got these big, luscious, beautiful urban farms ran by these amazing farmers. There's no way. So that has to be a myth to me. The city of Austin has community gardens and sustainable urban agriculture. Over 67 community gardens in Austin, 23 community gardens are on city land, a community farm, and over 7 urban farms. And what is a farm? Any place that makes $1,000 or more in products and produce sold, is stated by the USDA. Next slide. So all of this continues to fall back and continues to spin back full circle on me, and it continues to say to Tiffany, these things are done on purpose. These circles that we go through in the community, fights about equity, fights about, how do we give more support to the Black community. There's just this constant circle, especially when certain things are purposely done. On yesterday, the city of Austin re-rolled out again. We just talked about the city plan being a rebrand. So they just re-rolled out the Healthy Corner Stores program. And in the Healthy Corner Stores program, they're looking to match corner stores with local farmers in order to get the community to eat healthier foods. That would be a good thing if you haven't already been doing it for the last 7 years. Next slide. In 2013, the city of Austin did the economic impact of Austin's food sector. And it talks about this plan, the same program. And they had farm stakeholders who were farm owners talking about what is meant by the term local food. They talked about, who would they hire? College students, and they would hire, people who may be immigrants. I don't know why, when they have an old urban roots program that's training kids to be leaders in farming. So why can't they get jobs? That drives me crazy. Next slide. In 2016, they rolled out the exact same program for healthy stores, corner stores. The program is to improve the access to fresh, nutritious food in zip codes experiencing high rates of food insecurity. This was 2016. And here we are yet again in 2020, and they're re-putting out the exact same Healthy Corner Stores program. This will increase your store's profits. The stores will be able to get access to coolers and everything to hold on to this fresh produce. Next slide. So what has this told me? That this is a total FYF movement. Food apartheid at the highest heights. Not only are you out here claiming food deserts or food insecurity, but the scarcity of healthy options in corner stores, you're turning them into prepared meals. Now you're pushing us to go to the corner stores to get our healthy food. Why? When the city is riddled with urban farms and local farmers, whether they're Black or white, how can you continue to say that, especially in East Austin, where all of these farms are located, that we have this food disparity? No, I just don't believe it. I'm not here for it. And when you ask the city these questions and you bring someone like me to the city and I say, what can I do? What are you going to do to support me? Because I already been doing everything I need to do. When I bring proposals to the city for CSAs that go to apartment complexes for elderly or, low income housing, and I get no reply, or the reply is, oh, we gave Black growers, $1,000. That's great. That's amazing. But I asked you, what are you doing for farmers? And I get nothing, or I get a healthy foods program in the corner store across the street from my farm. It's a FYF movement. Next slide. And that tells me that the city of Austin has said, fuck your farm. And that is the end of my presentation, y'all, because I am tired. But yes, that is what I get in sum and total. After I wind down from a long day on the farm, or from a long day of research, or from a long day of meetings and Zoom calls and conversations, I look not at my community, not at the people who supported me, or the people who pay for their own food access by donating to my farm, but I look at this city that puts money into programs that are supposed to provide food access, that are rebranded programs year after year after year. When we have farms and Black farmers, Black growers who want to be farmers, who want to be in the agricultural industry, and we constantly get the door slammed in our face with corner store programs. Yes, it is definitely the FYF movement. Back to you, Carolyn.
Boom. And see, like this, you know, as someone who's been working in food for a number of years here in Austin for the last 6 years, and as someone who is studying food policy in graduate school, no one says things like Tiffany says them. Like, y'all just got schooled and you could never find this in school. You know what I mean? And so I really think that these kinds of observations and this is accountability. And we have some folks on this call from the city, from food nonprofits, and there isn't enough being done to really ask ourselves, why are we trying to do the same thing over and over again when we know it's not working, when we know that the people it benefits is not who we want to benefit? And the reason is because we are scared to do the work. We're scared to ask the hard questions, and we don't have a culture of accountability in this city. If you criticize an organization, you're blacklisted. You're told that, you're persona non grata. We don't want to hear it anymore. Well, we've got to hear it, right? Anyway, so we are going to, I know we're running over time, but hopefully y'all learned something. I know I always do. And Tiffany very quickly went over and made some changes last minute. So I got to learn stuff from her as well, which is really awesome. We're just gonna, are you okay with just taking a few minutes to answer some questions?
Yeah, sure. I was trying to keep it as quick as possible. So yeah, I figured.
Thank you. All right. So what we're going to do is, if you want to ask a question,
you're welcome.
Turn on your video and we'll just do old-fashioned raise your hand with your hands. And I want to just lay out two things kind of before we get started. One, please do me a favor and don't ask Tiffany. If you are a white person, please don't ask her what you can do to support her or support Black farmers. We've shared some resources with y'all. We'll put them back in the link again. Feel free to reach out to Central Texas Young Farmers Coalition. I'm more than I love having these kinds of conversations, and we really we need Tiffany out there farming. We don't need her answering the same question over and over again. And the other thing is, if you follow up with Tiffany and you want to ask her questions, please keep in mind that she is a parent and a business owner. She is not going to be providing, what do you call it? She's not going to be providing work for free. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a specific, if you are just trying to pick her brain, don't do that.
Please, because you might,
if you want to connect,
right? Because you might get snot and peas. I don't know. It's like macaroni and cheese this week.
And I know that sounds harsh. I realize that sounds harsh, but we just really need to respect each other's times and energies. And so, and this is it takes a lot of work and a lot of energy to do this work. So, okay. So if you have a question, please turn on your video and raise your hand.
And thank everybody who can't stay and has to go. I see you guys saying thank you so much, and y'all are definitely welcome, and we can connect, and they'll have all the links, and I'll drop links, and it'll be links.
Olivia.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you so much. I know you worked really hard on this, and
hey,
we stay up really late at night talking about these things, and thank you for being patient with me as well. And thank you, Carolina, for making those statements. And these things, I just kind of have a statement or a couple of statements I want to say. That presentation should be continuing ed, I think, for anybody going into any program in the city. But besides that, it was really well done. So thank you so much, because I liked seeing all of the maps and everything together. But also, just to put in perspective, if you don't live in the Austin area or Travis County area, going back to Antioch, and I think we talked about this before, Joseph Rowley was a settler here from, I think, Kentucky or something, and he refused to fight in the Confederacy, and he was one of the first white people to sell farmland to slaves. And also, to put things into perspective, if you're not from the area, Travis County really isn't that big to have that many plantations and that many farms. So I think, it's really important. One of the reasons I started researching this stuff is because I found out why Lamar was called Lamar. And so when Tiffany talks about these things, and she had a very good, concise list of some major plantation owners and slave owners, starting with Barton, William H. Barton, who Barton Creek is named after, and he was a brutal plantation owner. Elijah Pease, all of these names, when you're driving down a street, the best way to try to understand the history of the area is just to look at the street names and question why they're named that. But also, another thing to put into perspective, since we sort of normalized slavery and farming, I'm Mexican. I come from a family of farm immigrants and or farming immigrants. And this used to be Mexico. And when it was Mexico, there were not farms here. So literally, slaves built Travis County farmland. And to try to get that across to people,
it's hard as hell.
It is hard as hell. It wasn't, as a Mexican American woman, while this was Mexico, this was basically vacant. There were Native Americans here, sure, of course, but it wasn't prosperous farmland. The soil was not fertile, it was mostly limestone. I live in Pilot Knob, which actually has lava mixed in with the dirt. And so we really have to think about, when you visit urban farms, I guess probably anywhere, I don't know if you would say that, Tiffany, question how long, the soil history, and how did that soil get that way. And I think when we were watching that Boggy Creek, or I'm sorry, that Springdale Farms video, the first time you showed it to me, the first thing I said within seconds was, where are all the Black people? And I couldn't even watch the whole video. Even now, I couldn't watch it. So I think a good challenge for all of us is, when you go into these spaces that are intended to fill food gaps or whatever, look around and see if there are any Black people, or if there's any Mexican people. And if there's not, say something. I mean, that's over the last 20 years, I've done that. I've walked out of city meetings, these food meetings that the city has, I leave all the time. It's not ever going to change until everybody says something in unison. And then the other thing is, with the list of plantation owners and slaves, not every settler here had slaves. So to put those things in perspective, not only was this not a big, huge area, Travis County, the people who had slaves had them for, I hate to say like frivolous reasons, but for entertainment and
luxury. It was luxury.
It was, and there's papers about at the History Center, and if you don't have access, get a library card. That's how I found out a lot of this stuff. I found out a lot of things by accident. And looking at the slave census, I think you and I talked about this the other day. In the slave census, especially with the McKinney slaves and the Barton slaves, and I think even, there's some other very well-known slave owners here, a lot of their slave children were mulatto, and there's only one way you can become mulatto. And those things are just completely brushed under the rug. So if you want a very clear, honest perspective, what Tiffany said was just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. I haven't even went northeast.
The letters about the $15 that man wanted his children back. I mean, there's thousands of letters in the Freedmen's Bureau. I spend reading hours every night, and I kind of go through each one. Some of them are illegible. Can't read them.
Illegible.
Thank you. And if we can watch movies about it, you can read books about it, but when you actually see the documents, or you see that list of mulatto children, you really have to understand that, as white people, I mean, I'm biracial, you have to really make a definitive change. And I really hope people make that change today hearing your this lecture, because I don't know another way to get people to change and pay attention. And these programs that the city started, the city plan of 1928 was rebranded as Code Next in 2012. And I was a big opponent of Code Next. Every single meeting I went to, there was not Black people involved. I had the city come out to East Austin. Still, it was a disaster. And these things oftentimes don't happen under our noses, but they happen out of purview of the people that it's going to affect most. And so thank you, Tiffany, for bringing this. Thank you, Carolina, for having this event. It's really, meeting Tiffany's like sort of changed my life in a way that, I'm angry every single day that I live in this county. We talk about it. Oh my God! We talk about it all the time, but we notice like micro details in things that maybe I was saying to myself, and to see like Tiffany saying it to herself, and we started saying it out loud, we didn't realize how big of a problem it is here. So I'm glad you put on this presentation, and I'm glad you did the research, because I hope that it sparks other people to do some research on their own and see the history of it. So thank you. That's really all I had to say. You're welcome. For the question.
Thank you, because I definitely thank you, because I like I said, I definitely, when you messaged me earlier and we were talking, I was like, I'm gonna have to redo this entire thing, and I'm gonna have 2 hours to do it, and I have no idea how I'm gonna do it, because there is so much information, and I really want to talk about like each colony and stuff. But now, like Carolina talked about, the Austin Colonies Project, they're putting out so much information. It's kind of like now I can really kind of go and focus on that, bringing Black agriculture back. I don't have to focus so much at saying, hey, what are y'all talking about? There's been Black success here. We had freedmen's colonies. Where did those colonies come from? So being able to just go back and focus on the farming for me is very important. So I hope that I was able to tie everything together in as little time as I had tried to do it. So thank you definitely for coming and supporting today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Olivia. Okay, I'm biased, but I don't see any other hands going up, so I'm gonna let this. Oh, Edie.
I have a question, Tiffany. Thank you very much. Learned a lot from all your research.
Thank you.
And I hope that will get a lot more wide coverage. My question is about the end of your presentation, because I'm interested in the history leading up to the contemporary situation for Black farmers in Austin. And I'm really excited about what you're doing, but you ended with this making a point about the city not supporting what you're doing. And I'm interested I didn't completely understand what you said at the very end, and could you say a little bit more about that, or repeat what you said?
Yes. So the city of Austin has more recently, back when COVID first started. So for instance, when COVID first started, I was still in the process of, bootstrapping my own farm. Everything that I did for my farm over the last 3 years was out of my own pocket. And so I wanted to figure out a way to go to the city and have them support my farm and, fund it. So when the city put out I think they put out money for local farmers to continue during COVID. I was able to put together a proposal and submit it to the city of Austin for something that's similar to a CSA, where the funding would help cover the costs for 22 weeks of growing, which is would have been my fall season. And this would have covered everything I needed, like seed, equipment, labor, for the entire 22 weeks. And I submitted it to the city of Austin, and I hadn't heard anything back. My farm didn't get any funding. It's really hard for me to constantly be on the lookout and apply for funding. Just constantly, I don't have time for that anymore at this point. So when I did that, it was just for me, another kick in the face. So then once the city put out a response to a news segment that I had done, and their response was that they had provided $1,000 to a Black-led community garden initiative, which I 100% support. I was happy that they had done that, but I was angry and upset that they completely ignored me as a farmer. They didn't even acknowledge what I had talked about. They didn't acknowledge the fact that I had submitted a proposal or any of it. It's just this constant just overlooking of me saying, I farm. Don't put me in a community garden box, because all the money that I make in the community garden has to go back into the community garden. I can't go and pay any of my bills. I can't put clothes on my kids' back, food on my table. I can put food on the table from the community garden, but we can't eat special food like shrimp. So it's just kind of the city just is ignoring the Black farmer, being like, hey, I'm farming, this is what I'm doing. So yeah, that's why I definitely say there's a FYF movement on Black agriculture. And I would say this on all farmers, not just me as a Black farmer. I would encourage all farmers, local farmers, to be angry and upset with the city of Austin for just making them seem so small. Just farmers don't matter. Just go to the corner store and get your food. Well, where y'all getting the food from the corner store? I want the farmers on this call to raise their hand and tell me if they taking their food to the corner store with this program. I'm just trying to, see the data. So hopefully that answers your question.
Nora.
Thank you.
Hi, Tiffany. My name's
Hey.
Nina. Thank you for
Hi,
such
Nora.
a great presentation.
You're welcome.
I was really interested when you brought up the program at Urban Roots and about how so many of those students or those young people who are being trained to be farmers aren't being hired for other programs. And that's something that I've really wondered about and been interested in terms of I feel like there's this program in Austin that's been lifted up as a great training program, but then I never see those kids with actual jobs in the agriculture community. And I'm wondering if in your research and your, the things that you've been looking into, can you speak to it all, the disconnect there, and potentially what I see some smiles in some other videos.
Well,
but I just, for me, it's something I've been wondering, and you brought it up, and I'm like, this seems like something that could be and should be fixed.
I don't think it's when you have, like you say, it could be and should be fixed, but it's not. That's because it's not meant to be fixed. It's done like that on purpose. You don't go, first of all, I'm Black, and you can't come to my house and come get my 14, 15, 16-year-old child and go be like, yeah, you finna go farm where? Like, is there parents involved in this program? And if there are parents involved in this program, I'm like you. These parents want to know, are these kids getting a kickback? Are they getting any money from the Urban Root sales to our duck? I don't know. I don't know. Are they getting paid? They not getting jobs because ain't none of the local farmers here black. I'm 36 years old, and y'all been here way before me. So y'all didn't put a lot of young kids through the program that aren't getting jobs. I've been told different things about why they don't get jobs, and it's racism. It's all racist. It's all racist stuff. Like, I have kids from Urban Roots who come to my farm and be like, dang, this is cool. I used to do this over at Urban Roots. I'd be like, what? They're like, yeah, where you been at? Juvenile. You been in jail? What? Why? Didn't you just do the leadership program? No, like, blow the lid off that shit. That shit is whack, and it's not cool. It's not okay for y'all to roll through the community, prey on our kids and our trauma, and we still not have a foot in agriculture. Nuh-uh. It's not cool.
Yeah, and I think just to bounce off that, I mean, like, Urban Roots really does not does not make farming as a living a desirable option, right? It's about other kinds of leadership skills like public speaking and that kind of stuff, which, I mean, then yeah, so it's
a waste of a black kid's time is what it is. And that's real talk.
It's a missed opportunity, right? It's a missed opportunity to history and reframe it and create opportunities for something different, like a different narrative.
And it is definitely a waste of their time, because you're teaching them a trade, a skill, and you're not telling them they can earn an income to feed their families. And y'all are using disadvantaged kids. That means these kids is at home and got siblings or somebody they need to go provide for because their mamas and daddies ain't there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Lord,
it's the what is it? It's the condition and the mindset that needs to change. And it's not our condition and mindset that needs to change, because we don't exist in the space. So this is a hard talk, y'all. This is a hard talk.
Yeah, it's real. Any other questions, just to respect Tiffany's time? Any last questions or? All right.
You're welcome, Bailey.
Y'all, this was, I mean, I told you this wasn't going to be a warm and fuzzy. I warned you.
Yeah, and I want to, and because I want to be honest, and because I don't want people to keep, going around and, putting their energy and time behind these things that they believe are here to help because they want to help. You have to be informed and you have to know, no, don't go out here and donate your money to these organizations that have been here for like 10 years and they get $300,000 in funding. Go find you a Urban Roots, or a Rooted in Melanin, a small organization that's really trying to accomplish something, that's really trying to do the work, that is in the community, boots on the ground, doing the work. These people, I don't know where they get their data from, but these people are just winging it and being successful. And so that's why it's a constant circle. It's a constant circle because they're in the way. They just in the way, So if we start to be honest and we start to come together and we start to say, time's up, y'all got to get out the way. You can't sit here. Like, I don't know where you can
cheer us on, you can come hang out and stuff, but no, you can't participate. You just because there were no results. No results. So we want to move forward. And we want to bring the kids, especially our youth. They deserve it. They deserve everything that we can do to make their futures better. And especially in agriculture, because the av- the average age of a farmer is 69, 70. That's no, like I got strong boys. I got three sons, 13, 7, no, 13, 5, and 4. Strong boys. They ready. Texas bred, Texas raised. You hear me? So
All right. Well, we're running up on 8 o'clock. I want to thank you all so much for coming here and for just leaning into these really difficult conversations and taking a really honest look. Any candy coating is gone. We ate it. It's gone.
Yep.
To the side. I hope that y'all will continue to educate yourselves and each other.
Yep.
Now that you can't unknow. So we can't just pretend it didn't happen, right? Which is uncomfortable, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to learn and to feel uncomfortable. And now we have an opportunity. We know what hasn't worked. Let's try something different. Yeah. And I invite you all on that journey with us as well, and wish you all a good night, and keep in touch with us, and we can we can just burn it all down, start something
we can
better.
take over the world.
All right, bye y'all.
All right, y'all. Good night.
Man, y'all. Welcome again. Thanks for joining us.
Man, y'all. Hold on. Man, y'all. Yes. Y'all held it down. Y'all been up in this thing for what? 3 hours? That's what's up. I appreciate y'all. It is lit in my world. I got content. And I'm going to start doing my content dumps. I don't got to repeat myself. I don't got to put myself on repeat. I just pull it up. Before I let y'all go, I do want to share this one last thing with you guys, so that if anybody has questions as to how did I find myself in a situation with the L7 weenie, I'm going to tell you how. It was the blueprints. If you're out here looking for blueprints, people that have been stamped as prototypes, then you're looking in the right direction. You need to keep looking right here at your girl. Let me share this with you guys before we go. Here is a letter that I received from the city of Austin. On April 29th of 2021, in support of my farm. This is real. This ain't no, rip-off report. Support for Diamond Cow Farm from the Office of Sustainability, City of Austin. I hope y'all can hear me okay. Hold on. Yeah, y'all can hear me okay. Cool. Dear Ms. Washington, I am pleased to express that the Office of Sustainability supports the development of Dobbin Cobb Garden Farm into a fully operational, sustainable, regenerative urban farm. The Office of Sustainability has a mission to advance local sustainability and climate action by providing leadership and coordination for initiatives across the city organization and the Austin community. Within the department, we also are working on policy issues to improve the local food system in the city of Austin. We believe that Diamond Cobb Garden Farm aligns well with this mission by decreasing food insecurity and creating innovative ways for farms to work together and serve the community. In addition, the City of Austin adopted a 30-year comprehensive plan in 2012 called Imagine Austin. Embedded within this comprehensive plan is the need to better support local agriculture. We believe Dobbin Cobb Garden Farm can become a prototype to help achieve the vision stated in Imagine Austin. Dobbin Cobb Garden Farm brings equity to low-income customers by enabling them to access affordable, fresh, healthy, and local produce. This is exactly the kind of thing we need to see across Austin. You may reach me at Edwin Martin the food policy manager, if you have questions or require additional information. Period. The City of Austin, the Office of Sustainability. So my farm is a prototype. In order to continue to build this prototype and put out other blueprints so that other communities like yours are able to build sustainable urban farms, community agriculture, y'all, your girl got to get the funding. And I'm out here. We bootstrapping. It don't matter. I'm going to keep going. Once I moved onto the farm, it was over with. They can't get me out. They got to come drag me out. I don't care if my lights get cut off. You understand me? These bills can run up. The man gonna have to come put the yellow sign on my front door. The constable gonna have to pull up with the yellow sign and say, "You got to go, lady." Then they gonna come have to put my shit out. I ain't going nowhere. I'm gonna be a stone right here in my community, right here on my farm. I'm gonna get it done. If I gotta sell waters on the corner, if I gotta motherfucking internet contest giveaways for 100 here, 100 there, if I gotta, you know what I'm saying, Lyft, Amazon Flex, sell hot dogs, sausage wraps, barbecue plates, all that to buy seeds. I gotta slang my produce to be here. I ain't going nowhere. I'm about to renovate my farm, and we're gonna keep it popping. Period. All right, y'all. I gotta go. I'm out. Peace. Peace. See y'all on the other side.